All right, I think we're live. So welcome everyone to another Matt Maran Motoring live stream here on the Matt Maran Motoring YouTube channel. Hope you're all having a great Sunday here. Thanks so much for tuning in and joining us here. So like all the other usual live streams, we're going to go for about 2 hours. I'll give priority answering to anyone that is who does a super chat or a super thanks, as well as anyone who is a member with the green usernames there. They always get that priority answering. If you would like it as well, there's always a link in the description to join the membership club. So anyway, but hope everyone's having a good weekend here so far. And I see we have a bunch of people who joined in already. Truck and Car Guy, Kyle, Silvana, Good Stick, Raphael, and also a bunch of others as well. And thanks so much, everyone, for joining in here. So let me see. Jazz says, hello, everybody. Another Sunday night with our favorite car guy, Mr. Matt Moran of the famous Matt Moran Motoring channel. Thanks so much for joining in, Jazz. And all right, so I see in Cars, it says, hi, my happy Sunday. Thanks for joining in. I did get your email, Cars, and I will be responding soon. I'm very behind on emails. I was on the road all week this week, so a lot of stuff going on. Just didn't have a chance to get caught up on emails. So I will definitely email you back here, hopefully tomorrow. But thanks for the email. And I see Fook says, I'm still at work, can't chime in, but we'll listen. Sounds good. Well, thanks. It's cool you can even listen at work. That's must be a pretty chill job. And Zachary says, weird thing I saw this week. There was a Cadillac Escalade EXT, aka a fancy Avalanche, parked in my neighborhood for a couple of days. Interesting. Yeah, you don't see those too often. Today, man, my car spot of the week. I mean, I saw a few cool things this week, but today I saw a like pearl baby blue Aston Martin DBS Volante, the newest version, and that was like one of the most gorgeous specs. And I don't really see Aston Martins very often around my area either. So like as a big Aston fan, like that sent me already. And then the color combo on that thing, that was like made me feel like the giddy teenager again, like car spotting, like seeing that thing. It was so nice. I'm like, man, if I ever win the lottery, I'm going to like, because now that I know that something like that is in the area, I'm like, man, if I ever get rich, I'm gonna try and like find that car and buy that car specifically. It was a perfect spec. It was amazing. I appreciate all the 100s. I'd love to do some Aston Martin reviews on this channel someday. It'd be cool. I know it'd be zero relatability for any of us, but I'm trying to work my way up to the exotic stuff just because I selfishly want to do a few of them every once in a while. But let me see. Luke says, just finished a 68-hour work week with just a few hours ago. Time to relax and talk cars in here. Thanks so much for joining in, Luke. Hopefully it was a decent work week for you, even if it was a lot of hours there. And Good Six says, how would Tesla survive once Elon Musk retires? He's already in his 50s. I mean, I know the Elon stuff is polarizing, so I'll try and keep this one relatively surface level, but I think Tesla will be just fine if Elon ever does decide to retire. I think Tesla existed before Elon. It can exist after him as well. And I think a lot of people would say that he has kind of made some decisions that could potentially hurt the company as well. My opinion is Tesla would be better off without Elon Musk, to be completely honest. He's a very busy guy who's very, very distracted with a variety of things. And ask yourself, if you were juggling basically, 3 or 4 full-time jobs, would you be doing a good job at it? It's obviously he's done a lot, and he's not the average person in a lot of ways, but I think Tesla would actually be probably better off if he were to step down personally. But I know he is part of the appeal for the company for some people still. But yeah, that's my 2 cents on it. And Tony says, hey, Matt and everyone. Matt, what are your thoughts on the 4-door Mustang pictures posted? I didn't see pictures posted. I'm always like behind on some of this car news stuff. I was behind on the Pontiac thing last week, and I'm behind on this. I saw this Ford CEO. He just mentioned that like any kind of Mustang can exist if it feels like the original in some ways, which I think that's a worthless statement because really the Mach-E doesn't feel anything like a Mustang to me, like zero like a Mustang. So they already use that excuse with the Mach-E and like, oh, it's got the spirit of a Mustang. It doesn't. It's a good car. It's not a Mustang. I never call it a Mustang. Yeah, as I'm wearing my Mustang shirt here, people I think it's a Mustang. So I was driving the Mach-E today in this shirt, but it's just like, nope, I've had 4 real Mustangs, and I don't consider the Mach-E to be one of them. But I mean, 4-door Mustang, people were mad whenever Charger went 4-door, when was that, 15 years ago at this point? Charger's a 2-door, and they made an awesome 4-door that eventually everyone loved. I think if they do an awesome 4-door and it's V8 and it's manual, I don't think people will be upset, especially considering what Charger's doing. Are you going to get mad at Ford for a manual V8 whenever your other option is an automatic only 6-cylinder or an EV version? I think most muscle car enthusiasts, if they needed 4 doors, would be happy to see that. It also would be a nice consolation prize for people who can live with a little bit less practicality and can't get like a Durango after this year with a V8. And, as the performance family vehicles going away, I would welcome a 4-door Mustang if it was done well. Again, if it's just going to be a Mach-E with a slightly different body style to make it a 4-door or something. I mean, I guess it couldn't get any worse than the Mach-E body style, but, I'd be a little less excited about that, but there's some awesome 4-doors out there for sure. And I mean, I think the Charger EV is going to be awesome too. So, but I think as far as the Mustang name thing, that ship has sailed in my mind. So my outrage was, the past 3 years of the name, and like I said, it's kind of done and over with for me. So you're just beating a dead horse. If at least Ford's beating. Just my dead horse, I guess. If they start abusing the Mustang name more, it can't get too much worse, in my opinion. But anyway, Jorge, thank you so much for a super chat. He says, if you review the ND3, try to take 120 or so degree turn at speed and to give it the gas. Curious about the new diff compared to my ND2. Totally understand the tweak. Yeah, I am getting an ND3. I think they're going to send it to me in June. Potentially it could be either June or July. I think they're trying to debate whether that I think it's going to be hopefully sometime in the middle of June, and I will post that video then. But I'm gonna do a bunch of cornering in it and see how this new diff is. I've been hearing little rumblings about it, but I haven't really done a ton of research on it yet myself to see what to expect. But I'm definitely going to be doing an ND3 review, and excited for that one for sure. And thank you again, Jorge, for the super chat. I really appreciate it. And I will give as much info. And, I will definitely also try, maybe if you have other things coming out of an ND2. I know I have a lot of ND owners here that are fans and members. So if anyone has if people want to compile a list, or, even if, I don't know if you're in the Discord or anything, but if you want to hop in the Discord and, give me a bunch of questions there, I will make sure that I do a very comprehensive review for the ND Miata owners that might be considering upgrading or just curious about, what the changes are. I want to really, dive in deep on that as much as I can. So it'll be as helpful of a video, hopefully, as possible. Thanks again, Jorge. And getting back to the member questions here. So let me see. Hugo says, hey, man, what discontinued brand would you like to see make a comeback? Like kind of we talked about last week. Pontiac would be great. I'd love to see Saturn come back as an EV brand. I think that would be really cool. It's really the GM stuff is the stuff I'm most sentimental about because they had so many, good brands go away. I think I'd like to see Lincoln return to its, glory days of big boats, big, huge sedans and stuff like that. I mean, Lincoln isn't gone, but it's just the SUVs now, which are fine in their own way and are the appropriate thing for the times. But I'd love to see kind of that stuff can make a comeback. But I'd say it's probably Pontiac is probably the top one. Can't think of any other brands off the top of my head. I mean, it'd be kind of cool to see Tucker come back as a brand. I mean, if you're someone who really knows like the old history stuff, it'd be fun to see that be like a new like Tesla competitor or something, since Tucker was so outside of the box with their thinking back in the day. That's pretty much it that I can think of off the top of my head. MD Can says, I'm an hour and a half into my drive back to Lancaster from Erie. The Kona did awesome on the way up. That's awesome. Well, hope you enjoy the road trip there. It's a beautiful night for a drive here. It's beautiful weather today. And I hope you have a good drive and a safe drive, and glad the Kona's been treating you well. And Zachary says, Aston Martin chef kiss. Yeah, right there with you. It's exactly what it was. Like Beth was like she was like, "Are you okay?" Because I was like so excited. It was really funny. And Raphael said, "I was behind a BZ4X coming home from shopping this morning. First time I've seen one. I just saw one today too. They're starting to pop up more and more now that they're really starting to push them harder with the deals and stuff. I think they'll start to get a little more common. And also, I think with the 2024s, they improved the charging curve and did a few other little tweaks to make it a little more livable. So I think that there may be a little bit more uptake on those now. Not going to be huge, but I think a minor improvement from what they were doing. And B Mitchell says, spent the week at the Mecum auction in Indianapolis, so I don't qualify for interesting car spotting, but that was my week. Well, that's a very fun week, and I'm sure there's still some standouts if you want to share. I'm sure there's some incredible stuff. Everything there is incredible, but I'm sure there's probably some highlights for you for sure. But yeah, I'm sure that was a good time. And Ace says, if you were getting the new Model 3 Performance, which color exterior and interior would you pick? It's funny. I was actually talking about this. I was on these media launches this week, and someone else in the industry here was talking about speccing their Model 3 Performance, and like they were debating on colors and stuff. I think if it were me, I still love their red. Their red is really nice. And I think it's slightly different now, but it seems like it's still really the same, like great kind of red. So I'd probably go red with a white interior would be the way I would do it. Blue with white's not bad. Those are probably the way it would go. I really like Tesla's white, actually. I know it's like kind of like the NPC color these days, but it's a nice pearly white compared to the average like flat white. So I mean, if they had like a nice red interior, I'd be down for white with red. But yeah, as it sits, I'd probably do red with white. And Luke says, if you focus on too many things, you do none of them well. Totally agree. In regards to Elon there. And Dozier said, will Nissan have a launch event for the new generation Kicks, and any plans for you to drive it? Yes, they have a program coming up. It's a little ways away, but I did get an invite for that, which I was happy to see, because it's been actually a couple of years. Last Nissan invite that I got for a media drive was Z, and haven't had anything since then. So I'm actually, happy that they invited me, because that's a car I'm excited about covering. It seems like it's really nicely done, and it's affordable. Again, I really want to focus on affordable stuff as much as I can, and I think that'll be a great little car for a lot of people potentially if they've done it well. We'll see. But yes, I am going to go on the Kicks drive, but it's going to be a little while, so it's going to be this summer. So you have to, hopefully you're not in a super big hurry, because it's not coming super soon, but definitely going to be doing a good review on that, hopefully. And Sean, thank you so much for gifting a membership. I really appreciate it. Happy to see Jazz was able to snatch that one up as well. But yeah, thanks again, Sean. Let me see. B. Mitchell said, any kind of Mustang can exist if we can make a profit on it. Any Ford CEO. Pretty much, yeah. And so yeah, we'll see what they end up doing. I mean, but everyone in the weekly update was mad about the idea of Camaro being a four-door EV, so maybe Ford could one-up them with a four-door that's at least a manual and a V8, and then kind of cash in on the angst of the Chevy Camaro fan base potentially. And Evinder said, hey Matt, just joining in. I don't know if I just missed it or in one of your weekly updates, but I heard Genesis is killing the G70. Is that something you were expecting? There's been back and forth rumors about that. Yeah, the most recent one, I think I reported on this maybe back in the fall or something, was that they were having trouble justifying the G70 in the lineup anymore, and that I guess there may be a new one, but it would be bigger, but then it would kind of step on the toes of G80. So I think they were considering just going down to the one mainstream sedan, like a next generation something that kind of, I don't know if they just call it G80 and just make it kind of a little bit of different size or what. It seems like it's kind of all over the place with G70 currently. I mean, G70 is probably living on borrowed time, because I believe it was on the same production line as Stinger. Obviously, it has survived beyond Stinger, but it's that same platform. And I would assume that they want to probably try and get that car onto one of the newer platforms here at some point. So I think G70 probably doesn't have much longer to live. Whether there's a new version or not, I think it's still up in the air. At least as far as my consensus, it doesn't seem like there's a clear direction of what they're going to do. We heard that Genesis is going to do hybrid stuff. Whether G70 gets that and they just continue to keep it around as is, or or what remains to be seen. But I wish I had a better answer. But right now, it just seems like I have no clue. To be totally honest, could go either way, I think. And MD Can, thank you so much for gifting 5 memberships. I really appreciate that, and happy to see everyone was able to grab those. I really appreciate the generosity, MD Can. And Hugo, thank you for a super chat as well. He says, do you think Stellantis is purposely getting rid of CJDR brand in America? It's popular everywhere except North America. Sales are horrible. CJDR. I'm trying to decode that. I'm trying. Let me think. I don't know what that stands for. Chrysler, Jeep, Dodge, Ram. I mean, they're not getting rid of any of those, especially Jeep. Jeep is their okay. Thanks, Javinder. Jeep is their cash cow. I mean, Jeep is the whole reason why the whole Stellantis thing happened. Was basically FCA. If they didn't have Jeep, I think they probably would have been left to just shrivel and die. Jeep was the big draw because that's what everyone wants, a Jeep brand. And so whenever, the other brands of Stellantis could just essentially buy Jeep, that made a lot of sense. So Jeep definitely is not going anywhere. And as far as Chrysler, they're not going anywhere either. All the Stellantis brands, whenever Stellantis was formed, the CEO gave every single brand within that umbrella 10 years to prove themselves. And give them a bunch of funding, give them all free reign, do whatever you need to do for your brand, prove your worth, and in 10 years we'll see what happens. So everything is safe. I mean, Stellantis came together in what was that, 2021, something like that. So we probably got into early 2030s before anything goes away, and at that point you will see stuff on the chopping block, whatever didn't justify its existence. But Chrysler has plans. They already said there's going to be a refreshed Pacifica coming soon. They have multiple EVs. I think they said the exact quote was they're coming in quick succession starting in 2026. So expect a bunch of stuff from 2026 to probably like 2028 from Chrysler. And then that should give them a good 5 years or so of, if those things don't do super well, then maybe Chrysler goes away. But yeah, Jeep's safe, I think, for a long time. Dodge, I think, same deal. I mean, if Charger just crashes and burns and no one goes for it, if Dodge can't reignite, the passion for the brand, with this switchover and stuff, then, they could potentially be on the chopping block. But I think Dodge is fairly safe. Ram sells so many trucks. I think Ram is another one that's basically the same as Jeep. They're not going to go anywhere. No, they're number 3 in the truck sales, but they are a strong third. There's been some times where they have kind of overtaken Silverado, I think, briefly. So I don't think Ram's going anywhere either. So yeah, I don't think they're trying to kill anything off. I know some people might view it as that based on the decisions that they've made and things like that. You might think that they hate Dodge or something because they're forcing them to go EV, but that's just the emissions restrictions and all that stuff, the way they played the CAFE stuff with putting off the EVs until the very last minute instead of embracing them early like Ford did. That's why Ford is able to keep the V8 around and Dodge wasn't, because Dodge just said, oh, we don't need the EVs, and let's just forget about that and worry about that down the road. And this is down the road, and now they're having to face the music here. So yeah, I think the only thing I've seen as far as sales, I know the problem with Jeep is that a lot of stuff's too expensive. And I think they were able to get away with it for a while, but I think people are finally putting their foot down on crazy Jeep pricing, and they're going to fix it. They already have started to fix, Grand Cherokee got, I think, a couple grand off the MSRP. And, I think they're just going to start bringing that stuff in line a little bit. And as far as I know, Hornet sales have been bad, and there's dealers offering massive discounts on that. The problem with Hornet was, my objection with Hornet, it's not a bad car if you are the type of person that's into that, but it's a tough niche because we're talking technically subcompact crossover. It's a large subcompact, but it's still a subcompact that can get up to 50 grand or something fully loaded. They just, again, crazy with the option packages. If you go cheap and you're careful with the options on them, it's a good value. And that's what I said in my review. If you go for the $30,000 Hornet, I think that's a really solid buy because it's 250 horsepower or whatever. It's almost 300 pound-feet of torque for 30 grand, and that kind of a package is pretty good. Materials are decent. It's just, the electronics were still a little iffy, and the one that I had might have been pre-production, but yeah, it was not the best as far as that goes. I'd like to revisit one down the road and see. I didn't have the RT, so if there's a production quality RT, to try out, might be worth revisiting. But yeah, they're struggling in a lot of ways, but I think it's because they just priced everything pretty poorly recently. And so I think they bring pricing in line. I think that will solve a lot of their problems. In my opinion, I think they have a lot of solid products, and they're just getting started again with Dodge with this whole revamp, and that could really revitalize sales for all the Stellantis brands in general. If you bring people into the showroom to, wow, look at this crazy new Charger. Oh, and by the way, you can still buy a Durango or whatever. And, they're going to get a lot of sales, I think, from just the halo effect of Charger as well still. So I think they'll be okay. I think they're going through a little bit of a rough patch, but I think, it's just this transition period for a bunch of the brands. And I think they'll be okay, most likely, in my opinion. And thank you again, Hugo, for the super chat, and good question. It's cool. And let me see. So, where was I? So, Good Stick says the Tesla Roadster was unveiled in 2017. It's now 2024 and no Roadster in the Tesla Big Rig. They plan on unveiling the Robotaxi August 8th. They seem to be doing too many things at once. Yeah, definitely. And, I don't know what they're planning on August 8th as far as the Robotaxi, but again, I guarantee you it's not going to be ready. It's not going to be good from there's again, like I talked about last week, they're not going to solve the liability problem, which is the biggest problem. Who's going to be liable for that? They're already dodging all the lawsuits on full self-driving and these class action suits that are starting to happen with people being like, I wasn't signed up to be a beta tester for this stuff, and you have beta software technology out on public roads hurting people. That's it. They can't even still figure that out. It's still not even hands-free. It's still not reliable or safe. Meanwhile, GM has had Super Cruise out for 5 years now, that's fully hands-free, that hasn't had a bunch of terrible incidents, that's rock solid, reliable, amazing. So, I mean, it's possible to, do better things, and Tesla can't even do that yet. So, get back to me whenever Tesla is at GM levels of Super Cruise. When they have achieved that, then maybe I will give them a little bit of the benefit of the doubt for Robotaxi, but they can't even do Super Cruise yet. So they are way down, way in the back of the bus there, waiting to kind of get some better expertise before they'll actually be ready for Robotaxi stuff. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be some kind of crazy demo on August 8th that'll pump the stock and, allow Elon to cash out a little bit more. But I don't think there's going to be anything legitimate that I certainly would want to be around or have out on public roads. Maybe there is some big giant surprise, but again, there's no way the company is going to survive if they say we are going to be liable for any accidents of this vehicle, which is what they would have to do for it to be truly full self-driving Robotaxi stuff. And Tesla's not going to assume liability for the Robotaxis. So it's not happening. Maybe it's just like the people don't follow the industry, or people just haven't thought through it, but I don't know why anyone thinks this is like a viable thing. Maybe I'm just like being an annoying person right now, but why does anyone think that is remotely possible? It's not. You can do it in a closed course, you can do it in a controlled environment, sure, but they've been doing that for years. I mean, I ride an autonomous tram going back and forth from the Pittsburgh airport that takes you from this security area over to the gates. It's been autonomous since 1989 when that airport opened, whatever. But it's easy in a vacuum. But whenever you're out in the public and you have liability and stuff, there's no way. So anyway, that stuff just triggers me. But yeah, and to your point there about Roadster, is being super late. The Tesla Semi is super late. Yeah, honestly, I don't even pay that close of attention to Tesla stuff anymore, because it all is just BS to me at this point. I don't take any of it seriously. It's, I take stuff seriously when it's actually out there and it's actually realistic, like Model 3 Performance. Model 3 Performance is fantastic. It seems like it's going to be amazing. I am hoping to test one at some point down the road. Great product. I'll give them a round of applause for that. Seems like a really nicely done refresh. But this other crap, they can keep it. And Zachary says, what can you say about your travels this week? This week, I I was on the Mazda CX-70 launch, and I was on the Chevy Equinox EV and Silverado EV launches. So those were the three things that I was on, and you will be seeing videos on those here, relatively soon. So, yeah, so there'll be. I mean, the embargoes, the times are already out there. So CX-70 is Tuesday, Silverado EV is Thursday, and then the following Thursday is Equinox EV. So yeah, we got to do some really cool stuff. I'm actually gonna be posting a couple little shorts here as teasers this week that'll kind of show off. I'm not going to spoil the fun little things that we did, but did some cool stuff. And the craziest thing, if you don't follow on Instagram, I posted a story, but we were at dinner the last night here on Friday nights. They always have dinners after the drives, all that stuff, and just hanging out. I was hanging out with Sophion, Eddie X, and the Car Confections guys, as well as Jessica Ray from Motor Week, and we're all just hanging out eating. And then all of a sudden, we see all these cop cars coming past the street, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Like I'm like, holy crap! Like it's like the world is ending. Like a ton of cop cars going through, and I'm like, what is going on? And then we see all these black Suburbans and other black SUVs. I'm like, oh, wait. And apparently I didn't get over the window fast enough, but apparently people said that Kamala Harris and her husband went to the hotel across the street for something, and they shut down the entire street for like, I don't know, 15 minutes or so. And like once they like sussed out the area, then they reopened traffic a little bit, but they were still like all these like black suit dudes just like hanging out in front. It's like, man, like it's an impressive display of like power. Just be like sitting there, and all of a sudden it's like, they just take over the area. It was wild. So yeah, that was a thrill. It's been a while since I've seen the Secret Service show up. It's been pretty crazy. Although another fun little tangent for anyone who cares, if I'm not boring you yet. The last time the Secret Service, I think the last time I was around them, and it was kind of also crazy, is I graduated Virginia Tech in 2012. Michelle Obama was actually our commencement speaker, and that was wild because there was like snipers all over the roof of Lane Stadium where I was graduating. It's our football stadium there at Virginia Tech, and like seeing like snipers actively on the roof, like scanning around during a commencement speech was wild. I mean, it was a very cool like bragging right thing. Like, holy crap! Like, who else is like the Secret Service at their commencement? But that was it's always kind of crazy to see the Secret Service around. Anyway, let me see. Sorry, Luke, for the delay on the super chat there. Thank you so much for the super chat. He says, "My boy becomes a man today with a new beard." Thanks for the videos, buddy. I appreciate it, Luke. Yeah, I think it's gonna stay. I gotta like figure out how to like trim it so it doesn't look quite as like scraggly, and I gotta trim this neck stuff up. But I think I may actually try and stick with it, because like now every time I shave, I'm like, I kind of miss the facial hair look. So I think it is actually here to stay in some form. I got to figure it out because I'm new to the facial hair world. So I got to figure that stuff out. Any recommendations for something relatively this length as far as like, trimming it and having it not, be scratchy and annoying? I welcome all recommendations because I know zero. So anything anyone can point me in any directions for, what to do, what to buy, what to not buy, whatever, would be very helpful for anyone that wants to chime in on that in the future. And thank you, Luke, for the super chat. And let me see other member questions here. So Jorge says, what's a four-door Mustang called? A Falcon? That would be cool. I'd love to see them call it a Falcon, especially with what we have with in Australia, the awesome Falcons they had over there for a while. I'd love to see it called a Falcon. And that's the thing. I won't go into this for a while, but Ford has so many good historical names. Like, I get the Mustang recognition, but at some point, I think that almost works against you, not only with enthusiasts, but with other people who are like, well, wait, now what is a Mustang? Is there no two-door one anymore? It's all four doors, or is it all SUVs now? Like, I think it almost hurt, consideration for the other Mustangs if people are confused about what's what, and if the whole thing is a Mustang, then what's not a Mustang anymore. So yeah, they have a lot of great names, and I think Falcon would be probably a top contender for a four-door Mustang. And yeah, it's whatever. Ford's just gonna yeah, I don't know. Probably just call it Mustang four-door or something dumb like that instead. But anyway, Luke says, I'm torn between Accord EXL Hybrid and Camry XLE Hybrid. Same letters in the trim levels, oddly enough. That is funny. So it's going to obviously come down to exactly what you're looking for. I still think Accord is a little more plush with the ride, a little more plush with the materials inside. So Accord feels more like a luxury car still. I mean, Camry's done a really good job with 2025 here to give it better tech, modernize the interior, and it is a lot nicer for sure. But yeah, I mean, it's just going to come down to, do you want luxury or do you want sport? Because I think that the Camry is more dynamic feeling. So if dynamics are what you're looking for, I think Camry's the way to go. Rides smoother in the Accord. Just in all the ways, Accord, I would say, is the luxury one, and Camry is the sporty one. So, not like Accord is boring or anything. It's still a nice driver, but it's just clearly set up for comfort. So, I'd still be happy daily driving an Accord too. So it's not like, the sporty thing is the only way to go or anything. It just comes down to, how you feel about those two things. And if you can test drive them, at least, I know it might be hard to test drive a Camry, but at least trying to test drive an Accord if you can. They should be pretty easy to come by at this point. And at least, figure out how you feel about Accord. And then, if you like that, but you want more sporty, then I think Camry would be great. If you're happy with Accord the way it is, stick with Accord. As long as you don't want satellite radio, right? Because I think there's no satellite radio in Accord anymore, which is really bizarre. But outside of that, I think that that will hopefully help guide you a little bit. Let me know if you have any follow-up questions. I'll be more than happy to help you out. And Jorge says, ND2 list. Why didn't they get rid of the tacked on review camera? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think, with Miata, sometimes I give them a pass because, again, we're talking about Mazda and we're talking about a car that sells in low volumes. So they can't afford to spend too much money on stuff. So, if they really want to, add in the safety stuff, you got to redo the front bumper just for that. Otherwise, they probably wouldn't even bothered with that. And I think the screen certainly makes sense because you don't want to have Miata lagging behind everything else too much. So I think there was things that they felt like they needed to do with ND3. And they, I think that there's just, some things that they probably would have liked to do, but probably just couldn't justify the budget for, like the rear view camera potentially, especially if it hasn't hurt sales really so far, so they probably figure they can keep getting away with it. And Elijah says, hey, Matt, do you think Cupra will ever take off in the US? They have a great design language and a cool history with Seat. Yeah, I think the thing about Cupra is they're saying that they're going to launch with like a large or a mid-size SUV or, just a compact SUV. I mean, it's hard for me to get excited about more SUVs because everyone does SUVs. That's all we ever, see. And obviously that's what everyone wants. So I'm sure this is an unpopular opinion in the general car buying public, but Cupra, I'd be excited for them to bring over, the actual sporty, smaller ones, but whenever it's like, oh, there's going to be more quicker crossovers. I mean, I guess, if it's sporty, that's fun since there's not a ton of sporty stuff out there, but, I'd like to see just smaller stuff as well. Even though I know that's a, waste of time, I guess, from a money standpoint. And Luke, thank you so much for another super chat. He says, let's spam this live with super chats after super chats. It doesn't matter who we are. What matters is our plan. I appreciate it, Luke. I mean, I always welcome super chats, but again, I'm always happy to just, keep on chatting here with the member questions and the other questions as well. But I'm good with whatever everyone wants to do. I know, times are tough for a lot of people, so totally can understand not wanting to do super chats either. And let me see. So, other member questions here. Elijah also says, do you think Lincoln Company, a Chinese company, would ever come to the U.S.? Probably not now with the new tariffs, unless they can find a factory here in the States. But, I think we really threw the wall up this week pretty hardcore with those tariffs. I wouldn't expect anything, from an actual dedicated Chinese brand. And even the brands that, just have stuff from China or have Chinese ties like the Geely stuff, even those, like we said, Lotus got screwed this week. Volvo, Polestar, so we will see how it plays out for those brands. But I mean, I think if it's bad enough for them, I mean, as far as new brands, they're going to stay, elsewhere in the world, I think. And it's just, the way, again, the government is playing the tariffs and wanting to protect the car brands that are currently here. And so, yeah, we'll see how it plays out, see what happens. And Raphael says, Tesla just doesn't work for me. I love the tech and I like electric, but they seem unfinished with bland interiors. I'm not a fan of minimalist. Yeah, and the minimalist thing definitely isn't for everyone. And I mean, the quality still seems like it's, can be a little iffy as well too. So yeah, I can totally understand that viewpoint. And Luke says, I don't understand why Ford is making all these different Mustangs. Just bring back old names like we were just mentioning. Yeah, totally agree. Jazz says, agree that bringing back Tucker Torpedo as a retro would be awesome. I wish Matt had the wherewithal to head up the manufacturing and Matt be a non-political version of Elon Musk. Yeah, that'd be fun. It's always fun playing armchair product planner over here, so it'd be fun to bring back some of this stuff. It's amazing no one's done a center headlight like Tucker did back in 1948 or whatever. I think that could maybe have a cool little perk these days. Maybe some better nighttime visibility and just a cool differentiator instead of just having an LED strip across the middle like everybody else does. Maybe legally you're not allowed to have a third headlight. I'm not sure, but anyway, yeah, it'd be fun. And the Good Stick says, what's the worst car you have reviewed in your entire career? Wow, that's a hard one. Because there's nothing that really jumps out as absolutely horrendous. I'd have to literally scroll through my playlist of car reviews, which is, more than 600 cars long, and try to remember what was the worst. Because most of the stuff I've reviewed is usually, newer cars and pretty good cars. If something is absolutely horrible, I a lot of times won't even bother reviewing it because likely not very many other people like it, and therefore it doesn't sell. People don't care about it, so there's not going to be many views on the video. I can say one of the worst cars that I've driven not on camera would be the smart car. That thing was just crap. It was the single clutch automatic, I think, that was just so jerky and so rough. It was not great. There's cars that actively annoy me and cars that I, do things that I'm not excited about. Like the Nissan Z Nismo, people were praising that car, and at least the one I had, I don't know if it had bad tires or what, but that thing was so unstable and just wanted to kick the back end out all the time, so much so that I didn't trust it anymore. So that was definitely not, very enjoyable. This Ram that I had not too long ago definitely had its fair share of issues, which it sounds like that was a pre-production truck that just was a basket case. Because I've since talked to the head of PR for Ram after that video posted, and he's like, yeah, we sent that truck back to headquarters to get it figured out. And supposedly, fun story, if you watch the Ram video, the adaptive cruise was not working. The buttons were unresponsive on the steering wheel. And then I got them to work for a split second, and then the whole system shut down and it just wasn't working well. He said literally they just took the steering wheel apart and it was just bad buttons on that one. So they replaced the buttons and then it was fine for that part of it. The other issues with it, he didn't really get into those too much, yet, as far as at least figuring out that issue. That was, an easy fix, thankfully. So, but as far as other worst cars, I don't know. I don't want to spoil it, but I currently have a press vehicle that is actually, I was driving it today and it was really annoying me. I was getting kind of pissed off with the way it was acting. And I will explain that in depth in the video. And it's a car, I'm going to let them have it in the video because it's really insane to me that it was as bad as it was. And yeah, I know I'm being a giant tease. I apologize. I just don't want to give away half of what I'm going to say in a future video. So, but yeah, stay tuned. I have something. Actually, I take that back. There's a few vehicles recently that it's kind of been a good timing thing because there's been a few cars recently that haven't been very good. And, I've been making more of a point to be bolder about my negatives. I've always been very blunt and honest, in my opinion, but some people want more of that. So I'm gonna like amp up my strength of my opinions even more and be really like, super pissed whenever whenever things are not, doing what I think they should be doing. And so there's going to be a little bit more of that. So stay tuned. There's a couple, at least 2 videos I can think of here coming up this, springish, summerish, where they're performance cars that aren't doing well performance wise, in my opinion, as well as they should. So yeah, but I can't. Long answer, but I can't think of a single vehicle that was like the worst, hands down, off the top of my head, at least. And let me see. So. Kyle, thank you so much for gifting 5 memberships. I really appreciate it. And sorry I missed the 2 other live streams here, but thank you, Kyle, again for that generosity. Glad to see everyone was able to grab those. And Raphael, thank you so much for the super chat. He says, I was at a family barbecue today and almost everyone is in SUVs. They asked me the biggest complaint about my Camry TRD. And I said it sits too high. Nice. That's good. Yeah, it's Camry TRDs are great. I hope they bring back a sporty Camry at some point here. And Jordan, thank you so much for a super chat as well. He says, Chad and Jordan here. Ford Chevy holding out for consumer response to the Charger EV before considering an EV Mustang or EV Camaro. Possibly. I think there is some of that. And I think, like I was talking about, this past week with the Camaro, where they're still trying to figure out what they want to do. Is it going to be an SUV? Is it going to be a 4-door? What's going to be the consensus there on that? Are people going to go for an electric thing? I think, yeah, it's very convenient that Ford and Chevy can just sit back with their popcorn and watch how Charger plays out. I think both of them are probably happy to sit on the sidelines and watch that one, instead of trying to compete immediately. I mean, again, there's no doubt in my mind that everything eventually will go electric. That is the way things are going. It makes the most sense. I think all things considered for the industry. And so, it's going to happen. It's just, do they need to rush something out right away, or can they take their time? Or is this something people are going to resist for another 5 or 10 years and effectively kill the performance vehicle because everyone just doesn't want electric performance stuff? And then everything just kind of goes away performance wise because people are like, well, okay, well, if you don't want a fast electric charger, then I guess we could just not sell a fast electric charger and just make more SUVs. And kind of gets them off the hook for the performance stuff. It's like, well, people didn't want it anymore. And then they just walk away from performance in general, for sedans and coupes, because that is, I think, definitely a possibility. If people don't embrace this new generation of stuff, then it just goes away. I think this is like what we're seeing. I think Subaru would be happy to see people quit buying WRXs because they'd love to water down the brand and, sell them Outbacks instead and do more dog commercials and stuff. I think that's, there's a lot of brands that, I mean, I don't know if they actually feel this way or not, but I could envision some brands wishing they didn't have the performance following they did, because it would make their lives a whole lot easier to like not upset that fan base and just be able to phone it in with a bunch of, money printers and, profit machines. But whenever you have these other things, I think there's a lot of enthusiasts in these companies still that keep these things going for sure. But, I think there's other companies that probably are jealous of, companies that don't really have much performance stuff that can just get away with, logically putting out vehicles that make the most money and call it good, So, but yeah, I think that's, I don't think there's any kind of electric Mustang 2-door coming anytime soon. Same goes for Chevy. Obviously, like I said, they can't even figure out what to do with Camaro yet. So that's going to be at least 5 years or more away, I think. So yeah, we'll see what Charger does. It'd be very interesting. I'm still excited to hopefully review Charger this summer at some point and see how that plays out. But one of that and Ioniq 5 N are the 2 top vehicles I'm really excited for this year to hopefully review soon. And let me see other member questions here. I'm going to get a drink. So B Mitchell says right now Stellantis is their own worst enemy with the crap electronics. Yeah, it is definitely tough with some of that electrical stuff. I hope they get it figured out soon because I like a lot of their products otherwise, and I want to be a cheerleader for Stellantis. But again, I got to be honest, and if stuff's a basket case, I got to say it's a basket case. I don't want people buying cars that are going to make their lives miserable with constant trips to the dealer and glitches and stuff. So and it's sad because I saw the comments for that Ram video. so many people chiming in like, yep, me too for my Ram, and like, or other vehicles that just, this is definitely like a common theme. And obviously, like a video like that, with a title like, here's issues with the Ram, is going to attract people that have complaints for sure. But, there could have been a lot more people being like, mine's perfect. And there were a few people that were like, mine's great. And I was happy to see that balance there. But, there was way more negatives than positives for that one, as far as people, having their own bad experiences too. So I hope they get things, improved for sure. And Tony says, bring back the Taurus. My first car was a 92 Taurus show. I missed that car. I just saw one this past week while in my Mustang. I chatted with the guy for about 20 minutes. Love talking cars. Yeah, it is always fun when that kind of stuff happens. And yeah, I'd love to see a new Taurus show. I don't know. I kind of worry that Taurus isn't a name people are nostalgic about very much, though. I mean, clearly, you are, and I'm sure there's definitely a few others, but I feel like a lot of people of our generation, probably view Taurus as, like the thing my dad had that was just, the family sedan. And maybe some people feel sentimental about that, but I don't know. I haven't heard a lot of love for Taurus, honestly. So I don't know if that would be one of the ones. I think these days, especially with the electric stuff, like bring back the Thunderbolt name that I think Ford still has, Thunderbird, like all these things I think are more exciting sounding than Taurus, in my opinion. But I wouldn't say no to a new Taurus show either, for sure. That'd be cool. And let me see. Luke, thank you so much for another super chat. He says, what do you think of the 2022 Subaru WRX Automatic? I think it has all kinds of noises inside the cabin when you want to drive fast. I haven't driven an automatic WRX still, so I have no idea. I've been asking for one ever since the WRX came out. They said they were going to have a drive program for the automatics because they were a few months behind the manuals whenever they launched, and they never had a program. It wasn't like I wasn't invited, like they just didn't have a program for anybody. So that kind of dropped off for some reason. And then, yeah, I don't know. They've had a few in the fleets elsewhere, but I've never got my hands on one. I'm still looking for one. And if anyone has one near Pittsburgh they'd like to offer me, I would love to review it, because I've heard from others that it's better than the average CVT. So I'm inclined to believe my buddies that it said that was good, but at the same time, I struggle to believe that it actually would be that good. So I'd love to try it out for myself at some point. So yeah, I wish I had more info on it for you there, but I just have no experience with it. But thank you again, Luke, for the super chat. Jordan, thank you for a super chat as well. He says, thoughts on the bullet replacement? Still nothing. I'm enjoying the savings on insurance and not having the car payments, and I have a lot of fun cars lined up for this summer. I have a really fun press fleet schedule here that is going to extend well into the summer here, and probably much. I got a lot of stuff even incoming for sure. So I'm gonna have plenty of fun with cars this summer, even without the bullet. I miss it, but I'm happy that it is living a great life and in Utah there, and is being loved and pampered and treated well, better than I probably treated it, to be totally honest. Because again, I didn't drive it very much, didn't keep everything perfect on it and all that. So happy to see that it's getting some more love there from the new owner. And but as of right now, still no need for any kind of replacement. So I'll probably just stick to having the Mach-E and then the press cars here for a while. We will see. Maybe things will change, but as of right now, there's no real update on that. But thank you again, Jordan, for the super chat. And let me see. Getting back to the member questions here. So Chart Car Guy says the only questionable brand is Chrysler, but they seem to be focusing more on it. Yeah, Chrysler definitely has got a plan here, and we will see how it plays out for them. And he also says if the new Charger flops, I'd rather keep my Magnum and just modernize it. That would be cool. Yeah, I think Magnums. I don't know. I think at some point in the future they're going to be desirable. They're going to be worth more money, especially if you fix it up, make it really nice. I think they could be big money cars someday, because they didn't make them for very long, all things considered. And he also says, if my fairly recent trip to a dealership for service was anything to go by, they haven't learned at all. Well, that's unfortunate. Yeah, I'd like to think that Stellantis would be better, but I think dealer experiences in general are just not great for most brands, unfortunately. And Brian, thank you so much for being a member for 11 months. I really appreciate it. He says, I saw a Ferrari on the freeway a couple of weeks ago. Nice. Always exciting to see a Ferrari because there's no close dealers around here. So there's not a lot of Ferrari buyers around here. So every time I see one, it's always exciting for me too. And Jordan, thank you for another super chat. He says, Italian Job part of your DVD collection? Yep, I have Italian Job on DVD. I didn't upgrade that one to Blu-ray, so it's still on original DVD there. And I've had it so long, the case is actually faded. It's so like the yellow from the spine is like faded away and stuff. But yeah, I love Italian Job. That was part of why I wanted, a R56 Mini whenever I got mine. I know they were R53s in the movie, but I was. And I kind of liked, that's one of the reasons why I love the stripes on mine and the little, fog lamps, the driving lights in the front, kind of remind me of the Italian Job. And still bummed that my R56 didn't hold up. But that is, you're asking about bullet replacements. That is another one. Obviously, GR86 is the top contender if I were to ever get something. But I really have been wanting a convertible. I've always wanted a convertible, and I've never had one. And especially if I do a bullet replacement that doesn't get driven very often, then I think a convertible really makes a lot more sense too, because it's going to be a kind of a rare-ish special occasion kind of car. And a convertible makes that experience a little more, exciting in my opinion. And, but I need a convertible with 4 seats. And that really limits me because otherwise I'd say, oh, it's going to Miata, done deal. And that would be an instant no-brainer for me. But Miata's out because I can't put a car seat in it. So I've been like contemplating what if I get like a, lightly used, certified, with a warranty, current gen Mini. Because apparently Mini, they just jumped up. Consumer Reports, I think it was, and a couple others, like Mini is like really reliable now, supposedly. And I kind of have been hearing this from other Mini experts and stuff that say this current, or I guess now with the new ones coming, the last gen of the Minis here is actually really solid. It's a BMW engine, and they've really sorted out the electrical stuff and all that as well, so that it seems like they're actually really solid cars. People doing 6-figure mileages on them, no problem. So there's a little part of me that is considering maybe a Mini Cooper S convertible manual at some point, especially since they depreciate pretty nicely. But I'm also terrified about falling for the Mini trap twice. But it really, I probably sound like I'm justifying I'm using excuses at this point, but it really seems like it's different this time because they've actually improved them for this new generation, reliability wise. So the funny thing is, though, I have actually never reviewed or even driven. I think I did a quick drive in a regular Cooper S at some point, but I'm not even sure if I did that. It's kind of a car I haven't had any experience in. So it's one of the very rare cars that I actually don't know 100% how it drives. And I've been watching every now and then I'll watch a quick little review on them to just be like, just get a little more info, try and feel it out a little bit more. I mean, I kind of know how that generation of Mini, the infotainment stuff and all that works. I did the, Clubman, which is, similar as far as the interior stuff. So I'm still a little familiar, just haven't done that Cooper S. So that's that, but it's got to be something for seats. I see. Thank you for the super chat about Chrysler Sebring convertible. Yeah, definitely wouldn't be something like that. I briefly considered like an S5 convertible or something like that. Again, assuming I have the money. Like I said, right now I really don't have the money for anything. So, this is all just kind of, as I'm sure many of you do as well, just kind of being like, what would I buy at this price point, or what would I do for this or that? Just kind of because it's just a fun thing to daydream and think about. But so, maybe like S5 or something like that, if there was a cheaper used one with, again, an extended warranty. But I don't want to break my own rule of, used European stuff typically is not a good purchase. But it seems like the new Minis are really solid. So every once in a while, I'm like, maybe I would break my own rule and maybe try the Mini thing again. The thing is, like this time, in hindsight, with the way things are, especially these days, like the R56 Mini was probably a gold mine if I would have kept it. I wanted a reliable car because I don't love having a car that's constantly breaking down. But it would have made for great content if every other day the car is leaving me stranded and just being a complete nightmare. Like it would have been a great dramatic vlog series of me just losing my mind on the side of the road every other week. It would probably would have really helped the channel. So, well, hindsight's 2020 again. I just wanted a reliable car at that point because I wasn't getting press cars really at that point much yet or anything to like fall back on. And I needed to get, from point A to point B reliably. But, if it's just for kicks now and just for content, like, even if it was, horribly unreliable, I feel like I could still spin that to be a really, good series still. So, I'm a little less terrified about having, getting burned by something like that these days, but we'll see. But yeah, anyway, thanks, Jordan, for the super chats there. Getting back to the member questions here, though. So Mike says, was Honda's EV investment announcement encouraging to see for you? It was. Yeah. So like I mentioned in the weekly update, I think it was a really refreshing take of them being like, we're not going to back down on this stuff. We're still going to forge ahead. We still think this is the best solution going forward. And, I think they're just confident the market will figure itself out. And I mean, even, I was on, again, on the Equinox EV and Silverado EV launches this week, and they're talking the entire, 2 days about, where they see the EV thing going and where they see, buyer holdups and buyer interests. And I mean, they had a lot of really, impressive research. They, spent a ton of money on a bunch of, surveys of all kinds of people trying to figure out exactly what do people want, what are people considering, what segments are people open to for EVs more than others, all these things. And, I think at the end of the day, it really just comes down to the price being right, which is why you're seeing Ioniq 6 is currently selling faster than Palisades because they started leasing with $239 a month, and I think now it's, slightly less, but a slightly bigger down payment, but roughly the same, like super cheap leases. Obviously you can't afford to do that forever, but it just proves the point. If you price them right, people will come. And all of a sudden people are going to be like, oh yeah, well now I'll own an EV if it's $250 a month. Versus for a $45,000 car, that's really nice and has a lot of great stuff, has a good, good charging, good range, like the Ioniq 6 does, 300 miles in that, 18-minute recharge from 10 to 80%, like top-notch stuff. And then you price that at $250 a month, and then people buy. And so I think that's a really good proof that, and I mean, I've heard this before, like online, you would think no one wants an EV because there's so many people, at least on this channel, that are just absolutely against it. But the research shows that 50% of new car buyers are considering an EV seriously for their next car. So there's 50% of people that have no objections from a, personality standpoint or whatever. It's just, is the price right? It's just, what is it going to get them the nicest thing for the least amount of money? And for a lot of people, it really is that simple. And it also the supply, if you have a bunch of EVs sitting on the lot and maybe you came in wanting a Camry, but there's no Camrys available or something, then you say, oh, well, there's a BZ4X sitting here and it's $200 a month. Sweet. Sign me up. And a lot of people, it's that simple, especially people that, again, don't do a lot of road trips, and all that. So yeah, I think it was encouraging for sure to see that. Again, everyone's making their bets. Maybe Honda will be completely wrong and it'll put them under, or maybe they will be right, and maybe it'll be Toyota and the other brands that are playing catch up to try and catch up to them. It's like Subaru saying we're not sure, and they want to partner with Toyota for a while. And I mean, Toyota is definitely going in hardcore with the EVs here. It sounds in 2026 or so, we're going to start to see a lot more fill out the lineup. So I don't really consider Toyota to be dragging their feet really either, even though they weren't one of the first, front runners. But I think that they are going to catch up really fast and have really impressive stuff when they do. But regardless, yeah, I think everyone in the industry, and a lot of, everyone that I talk to as well that are covering this in the industry, all the experts, like there's no debate. Like this is definitely like the way forward. And so it's just figuring out the best way to get there, how to make it appealing, like anything else. So it was interesting for sure to see Honda come out and really take a firm stand like that. And Jazz says, Luke, Matt is running a contest on how much money he can raise by us paying him to shave. Jazz, I think you're the only one that's really upset about the facial hair, and I don't know. I feel like everyone else seems to be mostly supportive of it, but yeah, we'll see. Maybe I'll get over it eventually, and who knows? But I think it's yeah. I'm thinking I'm gonna stick with it for a little bit. And let me see. Vishal, sorry, Jordan, I missed your other super chat as well. He says, had a bullet as a press car prior to purchase. I did not. No, I just placed an order. I mean, I think that one was kind of easy because I already knew, S550 Mustang. I knew it wasn't going to be that different, so I could make an educated guess on how the few extra horsepower would feel, And the other things were just things that I just, like it had auto rev matching was a new thing for the Bullet. I was familiar with that technology, so I could already fill in the blanks for how that would feel in a Bullet. So there was less of that. It wasn't like a whole new platform, a whole new car or anything. So that was kind of an easy one to take a leap on that, And I also just knew it was going to be amazing. And it was just, again, it was a Bullet. It was dark green. It had the Bullet on it, as far as the name. And so to me, that was probably enough to sell me too. And thank you again, Jordan, for the super chat. Vishal, thank you for a super chat as well. I said, thoughts on current Accord? It gets crap for being restrained versus the 10th gen. To me, it's like a modernized version of my 2016 Passat, which Volkswagen didn't make. Yeah, I love Accord. I guess some people, didn't love the styling when it first came out, thought it was too bland. But the sales are great on Accord, or at least they were. It seems like Honda's been going through a rough patch with sales recently as well. But yeah, I think Accord was a super strong seller, and I think it still is selling pretty well. And I think they played Accord exactly right. They kind of, I think it still drives great. Again, it's not like they turned it into some flabby boat or anything, but like it's, it's way more comfortable. It's more luxurious. It's got the better tech inside. I think they just made it better in all the ways, really. And so, yeah, Accord is still probably, I'm going to have to spend a full week with a Camry to really feel it out. But I would say probably Accord is still my favorite in the segment. As far as regular powered stuff, because I think now, that there is no Camry TRD, I'd say as far as performance sporty stuff, Sonata N-Line and Kia K5 GT would probably, be my favorites from an excitement standpoint now. But, as far as the other stuff, I think Accord would probably be my pick. It's really good. One of my neighbors has the new Accord, really loves it. And so, yeah, I think seems like it's a pretty good vehicle. So, yeah, I don't know who gives it crap, but I think it's great. And thank you again for the super chat. Let me see. I always keep losing my place here. Dom, thanks for joining in. He says, hey, hope all is well. Hope all is well with you too, Dom. Thanks for stopping by. Truck and Car Guy says, as someone who has worked in the trucking industry, we are realistically a long way from electric interstate big rigs. Yeah, that is definitely a harder hurdle to jump over for a variety of reasons. So yeah, and I think this is why you're still seeing hydrogen investment, and a lot of it is just that heavy duty hydrogen, where I think, there could be a real good use case for it there. And so I think that, the heavy duty stuff is still kind of to be determined, I think, as far as, the best way forward for that. But I think as far as, normal passenger vehicles, it's pretty clear that EVs are going to be the best way to go going forward, as long as everything, continues to come in with charging infrastructure getting improved, the grid investments continuing to come in, all those types of things. As long as all that stuff goes according to plan, if everyone sticks to the plans and sticks to their guns, I think that should all, should play out hopefully okay for everything else. And B. Mitchell says, just tell him that you're growing out your beard in protest of selling the bullets. Yeah, that's it. Just have it continue to grow longer and longer. And it's not going to get cut until I can get another bullet. No, it's I think it's kind of time for a change too. I think it would kind of maybe even help the channel a little bit to have a little bit of a different look. I see Zachary is excited about the beard. I appreciate it, Zachary. And Raphael says, I've been fully head and face shaved since 1991. There you go. Yeah, I always was as well. It just, I don't know. Yeah, I usually just was just, and it generally was first off, like I just didn't have time to shave every day because I'm just always like every minute I'm doing something. I'm busy. It's like I don't have any free time to just like sit around and not do anything. But as I keep seeing it, I'm like, it's a little, I feel like it is a little scruffy now. I need to kind of trim it up, but I think hopefully I can piece together some decent facial here, hopefully. And Luke says, I'd be going from a 2020 Acura, so it sounds like the Accord would feel the closest to that car. Absolutely. So yeah, great context. So in that context, if you're coming from an Acura, I get an Accord, especially if you're already in the Honda family in a way, you're familiar with kind of the way they do things and all that. Yeah, I think Accord would probably be the best pick for you in that case. Yeah. So yeah, that thanks for that context. That definitely helps. And Elijah said the Cooper Leon and Leone Sport wagon would be cool to have in the U.S. over the SUV. Totally agree. That's the kind of stuff I want to see from them, and unfortunately, probably won't. But B. Mitchell said Citroen SM had a front lamp that turns with the steering. Okay, yeah, I forgot that was it. Really was it in the middle though? I thought it was kind of like just like more lights, kind of connected in the like it was one of the earliest light bars, really. But I didn't know the middle. Excuse me, middle one swiveled. That's pretty cool. I actually I think they still have. I know someone that I think still has an SM, which would be. He's offered me all of his cars to review if I ever wanted to. That's one I'm sure like 0 people would actually probably watch unless there's a comedy factor that would maybe draw people in. But that'd be a fun one to review for sure. And B. Mitchell says, "Oh, you did get a VinFast as far as a recent car I didn't like." No, it wasn't a VinFast. And funny enough, though, about VinFast, I do have a story about that this week. When I was on the CX-70 launch, I was driving it, and I can't talk about driving impressions, but I parked in a place that filmed the interior B-roll. It was just a library. I was actually filming under some solar panels. They had like an awning, and there was a VinFast parked like 2 cars over. Like, wow. And I actually saw it was in Palm Springs for the CX-70 thing. I saw 2 VinFasts within like a 20-minute period. And I'm like, what is going on with like Palm Springs and VinFast? But so I was filming this stuff. And then the guy comes over to the VinFast and, puts his stuff in the car or whatever. And I had to ask him because he actually had like a golf shirt on, like golf, the racing livery. And I think it was I can't remember if it was a Porsche shirt or something like that. But anyway, I was like, I have to ask, like, what do you think about it? I had like a nice conversation in a parking lot, speaking like we were talking about that earlier with another car person. And it was a funny story because he said, yeah, he's like, I went to the mall with my wife she was going to get new pants. And he's like, I happened to stop by the VinFast store while we were walking. And he's like, by the time my wife went and bought pants, I had bought the car. He's like, they offered it to me for like half off. And he's like, okay, I'll go for it. Getting back to, again, cheap EVs, again, you can't afford to make any money, selling them at half price forever. But if you're trying to get initial adoption, that's a good way to do it when you literally offer them for half price. So he got it for half price. I don't know exactly if that means it's like, 25 or 30 or what the deal is. He didn't tell me the exact amount. I didn't ask, but, he's like, I asked him, like, what's it like now? He's like, they did a bunch of software updates. He's like, it's actually really good. He's like, I really like it. He's like, I'd much rather have it over a Fisker. I was like, well, yeah, that's totally can agree on that. But he's like, and I actually saw Fisker this week too out in California. And I drove past them and I said, I feel so bad for that poor person that has to live with that Fisker. But he's like, yeah, it's really good. He likened it to another vehicle too that he said that it was better than, but I can't remember what the other one was. But he was like, I was like, do you have any problems with it? And he was like, he's like, every once in a while it can be a little bit buggy, for the screen, which you can say about a lot of cars these days. He's like, I can't remember what he said, 300 miles on, on range. And he's like, yeah, it's actually like solid. I haven't had any issues with it. I'm like, sweet. Like, thank you so much for giving me your input. Like, I love when you can kind of get that real world feedback and stuff from people and kind of get out of the cloud of the internet and, all the perceptions of everything online from people that maybe might be qualified to talk about it, maybe aren't. But talking to a real owner, he's like, it's not bad. And I'm like, okay, well, yeah, if you're offering them for half price and they're not miserable experiences anymore, like, cool. Like, I'm all for it. Again, I always want to see a car company do well. And if they're better cars now, I mean, from what I heard from other journalists too, like whenever there was all the blowback, whenever the first VinFast, media launch was, like they apparently took that all to heart, all that feedback and criticism, and they really worked hard. Apparently they are like very open to correction. They're very open to like other viewpoints and ideas and improving the vehicles to where they need to be. And that is the recipe for success, is being open to change, being open to, figuring out what other people want, not being, not having your own interest or your own pride in the way, and just instead being like, I'm here to listen. Tell me how I can make this better. And, and that's what they're doing supposedly. And it seems like they're doing it pretty well. I mean, again, they are bankrolled by insanely wealthy people. So, I mean, they have the time they've bought to, get it right. And again, get these cars out there in the wild for, pennies on the dollar, and try and get some adoption here. So we will see. But I'm a lot more optimistic about VinFast now, hearing that from that actual owner. And again, this is a car person. Like, I don't think it was his only car, but he's someone who's, I think, had some nice cars. And he really likes driving it. So I think he said he's had like Boxsters and stuff, and I don't know what he currently has, but he was like, yeah, it's a really good car. So he's like someone who sounds like he knows what he's talking about, that was intelligent and was, giving me a really good, impression about the VinFast. So he had a VF8 for, I think that's the only one that's on sale right now currently, I think, right? But yeah, so again, it's one anecdotal story. Maybe everything else is horrible and he got the one good one out there. I don't know, but I'd like to think that maybe they've actually started getting their stuff together at VinFast. We'll see. But another random tangent there. And he also says, trust me, Snark works in automotive media if the vehicle truly deserves it. Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, and that's what I'm going to do is, just be more bold with the criticisms here. I'm glad that people are open to that. And let me see. Jordan, thank you so much for another super chat. He says, why haven't home electricity providers tapped into creating charging stations for EVs, home and public? That's a good question. I think that they also kind of were on the sidelines initially. And so now it seems like some of them are trying to. I think, there's a lot of the stuff where I think the electricity providers are all working behind the scenes with a lot of these companies and partnering with a lot of these companies to do this kind of stuff. Because a lot of the stuff, like, they have to work together. Like, for example, Chevy was showing us with the Silverado EV a couple of nights ago that, like, they have the whole battery backup thing, like you see with Lightning. They have that same thing there with, Silverado, where it can power the house if you have a power outage. And with that, you have to talk to the electricity provider so that they know when you're feeding into the grid or when you're, not going off of their stuff, and like, they need to be notified of what's going on, with that electrical flow. And so that, they're partnering with them, with all these major energy providers and stuff to, not only get that communication up and running, but also, work out these deals to potentially feed into the grid if there is a power outage or something, or if there's a high capacity time where maybe you don't need to drive your truck, or you don't need to have, the full range in your truck, and you can maybe make some money selling into the grid in the future. And, your Silverado UV starts discharging into the grid, and you get paid top dollar for that because the energy provider needs the help. Maybe at that point in time, all these kinds of potential things. But as far as why you're not seeing, power companies with their names on fast chargers on the highway and stuff, I think honestly right now there's just, it's a tough market for one. But two, you have a lot of the big names already dominating that. You have the ones that started doing it, that know that industry the best, that, whether it's the Electrify America stuff, EVgo, whatever, they're all, I think, pretty well established. And I think, from a power company standpoint, I think for them, the focus is keeping up with demand with the stuff that they know how to do. So the job for them is keeping up with the grid, keeping up with, the home demand, and making sure that that is covered. I think it's a big enough job for them that taking on more, might be a tall order for them right now. Maybe in the future, that could be a potential thing. But I think for now, it's just they probably got enough fish to fry there with just keeping up with everything else. They got a lot of work cut out for them the next, decade or so here to, get everything else, fortified and improved to the point of, being rock solid reliable. And Raphael, thank you for a super chat as well. He says, what's your honest opinion on electric vehicles? I'll miss car sounds, but my problem is price and apartment charging, really. And yeah, so that's the thing, for someone like you, if you can't charge at home, don't get an EV, in my opinion. I mean, there's a few people. There's actually someone here on the live stream that chimed in a couple of weeks ago and said, they do their weekly grocery shopping, and their grocery store has a fast charger, and so once a week they go, they do a fast charge, they get their groceries, they come out, the car is done, and they don't drive more than that range every week, and it's totally good for them. And if you live in that kind of a lifestyle, in that kind of a scenario, then by all means, go for it. It can work if you want to, take that time out, or be willing to fit things into a schedule like that, and do that every time, every week or whatever. And if you can have the luxury of having a schedule like that, then I think it could work even in that situation. But I generally tell people, if you can't charge at home, don't get an EV, because it's not going to be a good experience. You're going to be relying on fast chargers. You're going to be relying on that stuff, which isn't good for your battery health either. You're not supposed to fast charge all the time. It's horrible for battery health typically. I mean, there's some exceptions, and it's not like it's the end of the world if you fast charge, but it's just generally the slower you charge your battery, the more healthy it's going to be for the long term. So, but as far as my honest opinion, I like electric vehicles. Obviously, we have the Mach-E. I think that they're great. They're great vehicles. Now, there's caveats, of course, and I could go into this for an hour, but I mean, dynamically, they have the weight problem right now. I don't think that's going to be a problem forever. I think batteries are going to get smaller. They're going to get, more power dense. They're going to get better with the technology. And I think this is a temporary problem. I think we will look back on the 2020s of like, oh, I'll remember those early bloated EVs. And I think it's going to be, we're in generation 1 stuff. And look at generation 1 of any kind of technology and how far it has come. And so you got to keep that frame of reference for it. But I think that it is, like I said, I think it makes a lot of sense. I think it's the way forward, for a variety of reasons. And I think that, like our Mach-E, it's a great appliance. It's a great point A to point B car. It's a great, family hauler. I think the real thing for me is the sporty stuff. Like, we have to see how the sporty stuff does. That's why I'm really excited about, again, driving the Charger EV, driving the Ioniq 5N, stuff that adds in the sounds that we'll miss, and, will I miss the sounds as much if, the Ioniq 5N is bouncing off a fake rev limiter and giving me all kinds of stuff, if the Charger is vibrating and having roaring pipes, real pipes that open and close and stuff like they're planning, if there is all of that, it might not be a huge loss. Yes, it's not going to be fully authentic, but it's still going to be fun. And for me, the fun factor is the important thing, So, yeah, I mean, I'm fully in support of EVs, and I think, again, it's something that doesn't make sense for everyone, and so I'm not, I don't think it. Like I said, I don't think you should get one if you don't charge at home. If you can't charge at home, don't get it. So it's certainly still something that doesn't work for everyone, but just because it doesn't work for everyone doesn't mean that it's bad for everyone as well. I think that different people have different lifestyles and different things that works for them. A Jeep Wrangler doesn't work for me either, and I would never own one of those either, but that's just not my lifestyle, but it could be someone else's lifestyle. There's nothing wrong with that. Same thing with EVs, and it's crazy. Like, Beth, every once in a while, gets angry truck drivers flipping her off and stuff, just because she's driving an EV, in the right lane, not bothering anybody, but it's just, there's a lot of hate on EVs that I think is unwarranted. My general opinion on life is live and let live, let people, do what they want to do, as long as they're not hurting anybody else or anything else. That's generally my theory. So, but I think electric cars are pretty cool. And I think it's, from a car reviewer standpoint, it's a very exciting thing to see. One of the funny quotes, actually, GM, I think Mary Barra actually said this. She said, and actually it was back in 2017, she said, you'll see more change in the next 5 years than you've seen in the last 50 from GM. And I think that quote might be a little, I don't know if I fully agree with that. I think GM has had a lot of big improvements in the past 50 years. And I don't know if the past 5 years or even the next, 5 going forward are going to be that radical, but I think it is a huge change for sure. And it's fascinating to follow. And it's, it opens up all these new ideas, these new things, chances for companies to be more creative instead of just the same old, okay, we're doing a new generation. That means it has to have 30 more horsepower, and it needs to, have a bigger screen. It needs to have this and that and whatever. It was a very formulaic thing for years. You make it faster, you make it more efficient, maybe if you care about it in that decade, and you do whatever to just, make these little incremental improvements, and that's it. And now it's just like this radical new world with this stuff. And I think it's kind of, just something we've never witnessed before in the 100+ years of the automobile. And I think I think it's an exciting thing to be around to witness. I know, again, for a lot of people, it's the end of the world and it's, everyone's walking around with a cloud over their head, but I don't think it has to be that way. It can be fun and exciting. And I think car companies are working really hard to make it as exciting as possible. But thank you, Raphael, for the super chat there, and hopefully I didn't go too long on that one. But SOMD, thank you so much for being a member for 12 months. I really appreciate it. He says, "Hey Matt, my buddy is interested in the 2021 X5 xDrive 40i thoughts. Hope all is well." I've only driven the 6-cylinder, so that's the 40i, right? So I think a 2019. It was actually really good. I really enjoyed it. I wish I had more time with it because that was just during the AVA event where I had 2 hours with it, and that was it pretty much. So it drives fantastic. At least back then it did. The tech is pretty good in those. Again, I'm just worried about an off lease, German vehicle. So I'd say get it with an extended warranty for sure, or get a certified one if they can, just to give you that warranty coverage. I also wouldn't keep it forever. But I'm sure if you get one with a warranty and you keep it for that warranty period, then swap it for something else. I think that should hopefully be an okay experience. But the X5s are great. This new generation is really dynamic, really well done. The motors are so strong. And honestly, the 6-cylinder was so strong. I said it in my video, I don't think you really even need the V8 was overkill because the 6-cylinder is so fast. So I think it's a solid buy, again, as long as you get a good one that's reliable and you have that coverage to back you up. Luke, thank you again for another super chat. He says, Iranian president is missing after his helicopter crash. I didn't hear about this. Did you crash your Mustang Bullet into the helicopter like in the movie? What movie are we talking about? Was that Fast 7 with the Rezvani thing, or what do they call that thing? Is it Rezvani Beast or is the Beast the SUV? I can't remember. Anyway, the launching thing maybe is what you're referring to there. But I didn't hear about that. Hopefully everything's good. I don't, random little tangent no one probably needs to hear either, but I do not trust helicopters. I know they're very safe, and I've talked to Micah Musio, who's an avid helicopter pilot, about it before, but I just, after Kobe, I was like, nope, I don't need to be in a helicopter ever. I've never been in one. And I actually, my bucket list, I want to get to the end of my life and say, I'm so happy I never rode a helicopter. I'm going to refuse it as much as possible, because it's strange too, because a couple of the other people, journalists, there was, I think, a Genesis event back in early 2020 or late 2019 that I think flew to Catalina Island or something like that. And they flew everyone over on helicopters, and a couple of my buddies that flew on the helicopter, it was the same exact helicopter, same tail number as the one Kobe was on. And they were like, holy crap, we literally were on that same helicopter just a few weeks ago. It was, and actually Genesis, just for the New York Auto Show here this past couple of months, they did the same thing where I don't know why they felt the need to do this, but everyone flew into the New York airports, and then they were shuttling people via helicopter from the airport to the city. And people, they gave you the option. You didn't have to do that. You could either go helicopter or not go helicopter. And someone was like, wow, they're like, I was a little iffy about it. I'm like, when am I going to get to do this again? So I'm going to do the helicopter. And I mean, I don't blame them. For anyone else that's not a paranoid person like myself, I'm sure it was a very cool experience. But every once in a while, it's these programs sometimes have a helicopter thing, and I'm like, if there's any helicopter thing, I want no parts of it. I do not need to be in a helicopter. So I know that might be completely irrational, and that's totally fine if people want to think I'm crazy for that. But because Colin McRae died in a helicopter crash. I don't know. It just always seems like really tragic things, or especially, I mean, obviously any death is tragic, but like really like awesome people end up passing away in helicopter crashes. So I'm just like, nope, like don't need it. Don't need it. There's zero need for me to be on a helicopter ever. So gonna strongly decline that one. And rip Kobe, as a taste bud there pointed out. Yeah, such a huge loss there. And Jordan, thank you for super chat as well. He says PHEV versus a hybrid battery life. I think both of them should be pretty good. You know, a lot of these new battery technologies are really solid, and even some of the new stuff coming is going to be even better. But current gen PHEVs should be totally good. Same with, you know, hybrid batteries last, you know, a long time. A lot of times longer than the life of the vehicle. But even if you keep the vehicle super long, you know, we're talking 200,000-300,000 miles before you probably need to worry about batteries and any of this stuff. And I see Doug says the Iranian president was flying in those same conditions. Man, see, that's another thing too. I don't know if it's just pilots that are just overconfident in all these things or what, but like, especially if you've seen this happen before, maybe it's just a pride thing, like, oh, well, it's not going to happen to me. But like, you know, you gotta heed the warnings, man. Like if there's sketchy conditions, like just don't do it. Like this is why there's all these plane delays left and right all the time. Like because if there's a slightest chance of anything, it's like, yep, let's just ground all the planes. I see also Jazz says, I think Micah taking his family up in a helicopter, I frown upon that. I agree with you. Skip the helicopter. I mean, it's totally, you know, everyone has their own risk tolerances. I definitely don't look down on Mike. Mike is a fantastic guy. I think he's an excellent pilot. Obviously, he wouldn't fly in bad conditions. You know, so I don't think he would ever make that kind of a mistake. And so, yeah, I don't feel like I, you know, look down on him or anything at all. I respect him a lot. I wish I was as brave as he is. And he's such an awesome dude. So I think the world of Micah. He's fantastic. But yeah, it's just, again, everyone has their things that freak them out, and for me, helicopters are one. And Luke, thank you for another super chat. He says, what would you pick if money was no object? Mustang, Z, Audi R8. Well, between those three, Audi R8, because it's an exotic. The other two are sports cars, you know, muscle cars, whatever. But R8 is definitely would be the coolest one of the three. As far as reliability goes, maybe not. You know, if you want to drive something 200,000 miles, probably go Mustang with Coyote. Probably would be the best bet for getting you there. But you know, for assuming something lower mileage than that, I'd probably say R8. I see Doug also chiming in. Since we're on this topic, before we move off, I don't want to, you know, miss the stuff. But Raphael says, I've jumped out of airplanes, but I've never jumped out of a copter. That would be fun. that would be crazy. I almost joined the skydiving club at Virginia Tech when I was in college, because I was really into that for a little bit. Now, you know, it's another thing I'm not as opposed to, honestly, as helicopters, but it's still probably something, especially now as a dad and stuff. It would be a lot of fun, but not something I'm actively looking to do. But, you know, that one I wouldn't say never. You know, I wouldn't say never. I might do it someday. Who knows? And somebody said, what if a 1 hour helicopter ride gets you in the bullet back fully paid? Man, you're making it tough on me. I don't know. I mean, I guess I would gamble, but oh, man, if it was perfectly clear conditions, maybe, okay, I will do this. If it was perfectly clear conditions with Micah flying, yes, I would probably take that deal. Man, the what ifs here. You got me on the what if. But yeah, that is probably the only condition I would do it, because I think Micah is the only person I would trust to fly with. And yeah, if it was an hour and I could get the bullet back, I think maybe I could be twisted into doing that. But that is the absolute probably only scenario I can think of. Let me see. Also, I see Doug says the thing with helicopters is they lose orientation. Jets are different; they fly themselves, but fog and a helicopter are not a great combo. Definitely can see that. And Jordan, thank you so much for another super chat. He says all car companies have a museum/warehouse of every car built under the brand. No, a lot of companies don't save a lot of stuff. And some of them do, but not a lot. And we just were seeing in the past week or two here, GM was crushing some of their old concepts, and I don't know why, because surely someone would take it off of their hands unless they legally have to for some kind of law reason. I don't understand why, but there was like a couple of cool concepts. I mean, some people thought they were ugly and they were happy they're getting crushed, but they were still like cool concepts that are part of their history that like you would think, you gave someone at GM, say, here, I'll sell it to you for $5. I'm sure like an employee would take it and, stash it in their garage or a warehouse or something. But there's a lot of stuff like that that just goes away, gets destroyed, rots away somewhere, whatever the case might be. So, not a lot of companies are great about preserving a lot of that stuff, honestly. It's a little bit unfortunate. Hyper Shadow doesn't trust helicopters either, but I'm not the only one. Raphael says, I like Micah's flying vids. I've done some heli tours and they're great fun. I'm sure it's an amazing way to see places. I know it's very popular in Hawaii. I think whenever I was there with Toyota last year, a couple people might have done one on their own. They just, paid for. Jazz says, Matt, please do not jump out of airplanes. And I don't think Micah is a full-time helicopter pilot. Maybe if the pilot was the same pilot as on Marine One, that would be different. Yeah, that would be another. I guess that Micah and maybe Marine One would be the other case there. I would maybe be up for that. And SMD says, the book The Hatchet traumatized me from flying. Spoiler alert. The pilot has a heart attack mid-flight. Yikes. Yeah, I mean, the good thing at least with planes is, you always have a co-pilot and you have the autopilot, to kind of give you some stability in case there's any, surprises midair or whatever. But, flying, it's just like, I couldn't do this job if I didn't fly. So I don't really have a choice. But thankfully, knock on all the wood, everything has been pretty good. Haven't had any big scares. The craziest thing was coming into Atlanta last year one time. We were just going in for a normal approach, and all of a sudden they pulled up hard, and we went straight back up into the sky. I guess something happened. Someone got their wires crossed. I don't know why we had to bail on the approach. If maybe someone else was coming in, we weren't supposed to be there, or vice versa. I don't know, but that was the only thing. Thankfully, everything else has been really good. Knock on all the wood again. And I've talked about this in the past, but this is why I only fly Delta, because they don't have the MAX planes, because I'm even paranoid about those. And I was talking to someone who really knows their stuff about planes and was giving me crap this week because they're like, dude, like, you have nothing to worry about with the MAX planes, but I still paranoid about those. And that's all the other airlines, major airlines, run those, and Delta doesn't. So that's one of the reasons why I'm, especially now, loyal to Delta. But Nick, thank you so much for a super chat. He says, have you ever thought about contacting Cletus McFarland and doing one of his races like Crown Vic or Ford Rangers? I don't follow him, so I don't know what you're referring to there. I mean, I've always loved to review a Crown Vic because it's something people have asked for a lot, and I've never had a chance to get my hands on one. But never thought to reach out to him. I'm not sure. I think if I remember, I think he might have actually been on the C8 Corvette launch, if I remember correctly. Because I think I might have met him once. I think that was Cletus. I'm not totally sure. But a lot of the like regular car YouTubers who are like not reviewers, I mean, there's a little bit of, again, potential. I think we talked about this in the past too, about, getting some new followers there from, a little bit of a collab thing, but it's a very different type of content. I don't think a lot of Cletus viewers would like seeing my reviews on an Equinox EV and things like that, so it'd be cool content, but, I think I would have to pivot away from reviews and just kind of do general car stuff like, he does and others if I wanted to, really build up an audience of, followers like they have like that, of that type of an audience, people expect those kinds of videos from. But yeah, I don't follow his stuff, so I have no clue what he's up to or if it would be something that would jive with me or my audience, to be totally honest. But thank you for the super chat. I really appreciate it. Jordan, thank you so much for a super chat again. He says, year 3000, a museum of beautiful ice cars. Yeah, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of those. We'll see. And it'll be interesting to see how they kind of show that stuff off, because especially if we do live in an era where, most of the stuff is silent. I feel like sound is gonna be a very important component. So I feel like open air car museums with running cars could be a really cool thing, in the far future, where you just have these things, assuming you're okay with the emissions, I guess, but having all these things running for people to listen to the sounds of these little crazy internal fires happening in these metal things, which will be this wild thing, I'm sure, by the year 3000, if we make it that long as a civilization. But, I think that could be kind of a fun way to, kind of show off the best things about ice cars once we're in a silent age, if that happens. Hopefully it doesn't go silent. Again, with all the sporty stuff coming, it'll be louder and all that. I hope that, we'll still have some fun sounds. But Vic, thank you so much for a super chat as well. He says, have you ever toyed with the idea of doing Car Shrek? So I'm a little familiar with that. Again, I don't follow any of those guys that do that either. So again, I'm out of the loop. I really only follow real normal car reviewers for the most part, with a couple exceptions maybe, but don't follow those guys. I think, any kind of Top Gear style thing would be a lot of fun. We all grew up on Top Gear, so doing any kind of Top Gear knockoff would be great. I'd love to do stuff like that. And I'm not opposed, I'd love to do those things in the future. And, I guess we'll see how social media evolves and how things go, but I mean, if I, TV channel or Netflix or somebody, or even, a large YouTube channel had the budget and said, hey, you want to join us for, some kind of crazy adventure or something, as long as it's not super long, because I don't like being away from the family for a super long period of time, but as long as it's something I can get done in a week or so, I'd love to join for something like that, so not opposed to doing that, but doing something like that on my own, or trying to round up some people and doing some type of car adventure like that, it is a ton of work. It's a lot of money to do it properly, because you're going to need a film crew. You need people to film everything from the outside, follow all of you around as you're doing whatever you're doing, and have someone running audio all the time and keeping track of all that. I mean, it takes a whole team. There's no way to do that cheap, really. You gotta really spend some money on a crew and all that to do that kind of a thing. So way out of the league of the stuff I do from a budget standpoint and a technical know-how standpoint as well. But I'd love to join on something like that if I was invited. And again, it wasn't like some big long commitment. And I think that'd be great. Always down for fun car adventures. And I see Trent Garga says he has bad history with planes, family history with planes. I prefer to keep my feet firmly on the ground. Totally respect that. And I love a good road trip. And I also wish trains would get more love. I'd love to see a day when trains are actually a good transportation source in the States here, because in Japan, they're amazing. A lot of Europe, they're really well done. And, outside of New York and, I guess LA, if you're, doing the coastal thing, it's just not a lot of good train options. But I love traveling on trains. I did it a couple of times about a decade or so ago, and really missed it. But anyway, getting back to the member questions, I don't want to miss all member questions after we got off on these tangents here. Actually, okay, I see another super chat came in, and then we'll do that. Jordan, thank you for another super chat. He says, team up with a reliable shop to give a mechanical breakdown on press cars. That would be cool. I think there's a few people that already do that really well. And I also, that adds extra time and complexity on something that I'm not convinced the general car reviewer or car review viewer is interested in that much technical detail. Again, us enthusiasts, I can see a lot of us appreciating that, but even among enthusiasts, I think a lot of people, you probably lose them if you go into some technical deep dive. This is why, the people that do it best, Savage Geese, Sarah, they keep it pretty short for the most part. So, it'd be fun to do a mechanical breakdown, but I think to me, I feel like doing just kind of basic overviews on stuff, it's the best way. From my experience, maybe if, we really see YouTube pivot towards longer stuff becoming more and more popular, if, people are up for 45-minute videos and I can spend another 5 or 10 minutes, breaking down, all the mechanical stuff underneath and put it at the end of the video for people who really want it, maybe something like that could make sense. But right now I'm trying to still get the videos shorter, and adding more stuff to them is just gonna put me in the wrong direction. So yeah, I mean, if it's something people really really want to see, I'm not opposed. But anytime I go technical with stuff, it seems like that's when I do lose people, because you can see on the audience retention things, on they give us a graph on YouTube of here's when everyone clicks away on your video and when they give up and the average, and it can show you how many people stay all the way till the end and all that. And usually, the more detailed you get, the more you lose people, unfortunately. So this is why most of the most popular stuff, isn't super long and is more high level kind of overview stuff. But Jordan, thank you again for the super chats tonight. I really appreciate it. All right, let's try and get back to the member questions here. See where we were. All right, so I think there's still some new ones I didn't see yet. So let me see. Raphael says, since I first saw the 68 Camaro, I've thought it was the most attractive muscle car, and the ZL1 ranks as the most attractive of all cars. Camaros are great. Yeah, I always loved, especially the 5th gen Camaros. They just nail the styling on those. They look so cool on the outside, on the inside, just really great cars. And Steve says, watched your recent review of the CX-5. When do you think it'll be refreshed? Is the CX-50 better than the CX-5? Well, I just talked about the weekly update this past week. It sounds like a new generation of CX-5 is coming. They didn't say exactly when. I would assume it's coming in the next year or 2, maybe 3 tops, but I don't think it should be too far off considering the age of the CX-5. As far as is the CX-50 better? I mean, I guess if you want the newer interior, it's better in that regard. But like, I kind of talked about it in my CX-5 review a little bit. I think that, it's good enough as is. Like, I feel like the savings is better, with CX-5 versus CX-50. The steering is heavier in the CX-50 currently as well compared to the CX-5. And, you don't really gain much space in CX-50. So, especially if it's going to be more expensive and stuff, if it were my money, I would just buy a CX-5. I wouldn't go up to the CX-50, to be honest. But yeah, I'm going to revisit CX-50, I think, later this year, potentially. To kind of, figure out, because apparently there may be some changes coming to CX-50, little minor things this year. So I was talking to Mazda, and yeah, it's, nothing, there's no refresh or anything, but just, little tweaks, listening to the feedback on stuff. And I'm hoping that, maybe it'll get a little bit better, in some areas. So we'll see. Just from software stuff, basically, nothing, again, no refresh stuff, but just software stuff to kind of just tweak the way things feel. So that might make it a little bit better. But for right now, I'd say CX-5 is going to be my pick for sure. And Mike says, does it seem like Subaru is just going to morph into Toyota and not really have any unique products in the electric era? I mean, it seems like it's going to be that way until at least 2028. They said the couple they're doing, the 3, in 2026 and 2027 are going to be Toyota stuff. Then it sounds like they're going to do their own stuff in 2028, assuming the electric transition continues, as smoothly as Subaru would like it to, whatever that means to them. And so, yeah, I think that you're going to see Subaru is going to phone it in until 2028. So the next, 4 years here. It's again just going to be very clear that Subaru is still behind the ball, not not even close to being at the forefront of this transition. But I mean, they want to limit their risks. And again, talking about risk tolerances, Toyota and Subaru have a lower risk tolerance than Honda does, clearly, and many other companies. So, that's fine. I mean, they're both strong companies that I think are going to be fine regardless. But yeah, I mean, hopefully they will find some ways to make them a little bit more unique compared to the BZ4X and Solterra, but we'll see. But yeah, I'd like to think that they're going to stay separate with their identities and all that, hopefully, but who knows. And let me see. Luke, thank you so much for another super chat. He says, can you say these 2 lines with Batman's voice from the movie Batman Begins? Where are all the other drugs going? Swear to me. I don't know why you wanted me to say that, but I appreciate the super chat. So there you go. Hopefully that's That's okay. It's been a long time since I've done a good Batman impression. I think we got some love there in the emojis. So, thanks everyone, and yeah, that'll be the conclusion of my impressions. I'm sure no one wants to see any more of that. Yeah, I used to be able to do a better one. I just would need some time to work on it. Not something I've done in a long time. But thanks for the fun super chat. Let me see. Getting back to the other member questions here. So B. Mitchell says, Italian Job, the real one, the first one with Benny Hill, the reincarnated version, or yes? So I was talking about the new version for the Italian Job. I apologize, but I have not seen the original Italian Job. I know I could hear the groans from across the internet, but yes, I'm not up on the full real Italian Job movie, so I need to watch that someday. I don't own it, but I gotta find a way to watch it someday. Add it to my laundry list of the zillion things I need to do and watch. But yeah, I need to watch the original one someday. And Jabbar says, would you consider collaborating with another channel, maybe doing a comparison test? Could be a good way to freshen things up and track subscribers from other channels. I am definitely open to that for sure. And it just, for the way that it works out, usually like on media drives, like sometimes there's an opportunity to collab if I'm able to drive with someone else who, does stuff on camera and wants to weigh in and all that. But a lot of times, a lot of the people that review cars that I'm friends with have videographers, and so they always have a video person with them in the car, and so they get a car to themselves. They don't need a drive partner. Like I often have a drive partner because I'm on my own. So, but yeah, this is something I'm hearing a lot of. A lot of people seem like they want to have me do more collabs, and I've always been up for collabs. I'd love to do more of them, and so that's something I'm definitely open to. Me and Sophie have talked about doing a collab. He's mentioned potentially coming to Pittsburgh at some point this year, and maybe we can do a collab then. We were just gonna hang out just for fun and just show him Pittsburgh and all that. But hoping to maybe do a collab with him. And I want to do collabs with a lot of people. Honestly, it's just a matter of when I see all of my car reviewer friends on these trips, we're always all trying to film all of our content, and sometimes we have a little bit of a gap or a break where we can do some stuff, and sometimes it just works out that way. Like for example, if you watched the Car Confections review of the Kia EV9 when they did their first review of the EV9, it was me and Drew, and I didn't mostly let him just do his own thing, but I was on camera there and I chimed in a couple of times and I helped him with his decibel test that they do. So there's just times where it works out sometimes, and I love doing that. But there's a lot of times too where I've collabed with Kirk in the past, and it's kind of hit or miss. People really loved me and Kirk pairing up for the Prius review, the original Prius review I did. I collabed with him. That was great. Then we collabed on Ioniq 6, and that one didn't get many views. That could have just been because of the Ioniq 6, or could have just been the video was just too long because it was, again, me and Kirk just having a conversation a little bit more. I think that's the problem with collabs, is especially in a car review, it balloons the length because anytime you have more than one person talking and we're having conversation, that's a lot of extra time. And again, trying to get the car lengths down to shorter lengths, I'm always trying to do that. And so that's why you've seen me probably in more of other people's videos than mine. My own videos, I think I was in Kirk's Santa Fe video as well a couple of months ago, because I'm like, sure, I'll be on camera, but I told him, I'm trying to get my lengths down, so I don't know if again, since Ioniq 6 kind of got so long, it makes it a lot harder to edit too. Whenever, again, I don't want to cut out too much of our conversation, but if I just left everything in unedited, it'd be an hour-long review, and no one wants that. So that's the hard thing. I think for me, the better idea would be a collab that wasn't a car review, or a collab that was some type of dedicated collab, shorter thing, and not my usual coverage. I think that's kind of the best way forward. And so I definitely, it's been something I've been thinking about. And again, I hear this a lot. So I think that's something I need to pursue and focus on more, since there's a lot of demand for that, it seems. So that's definitely something I need to do more of. And I was talking to a lot of my reviewer buddies this week about how I wish I could vlog these events that we go to. I could, but it's just we all just want to talk and hang out with each other, even though it'd be really cool to kind of film that and show that experience. But I told him, I'm like, we need to just like all film behind the scenes of this stuff. Because again, you guys always see the highlight reels of, the glamorous, going to this place and that place. People are like, wow, you're so lucky. You get to go to this place and that place. It's like, yeah, but you didn't like see all the flights. You didn't see me sprinting from one airport to the other and sprinting from this gate to that gate and skipping lunch and being starving because I, had to make this connection, or because, I was doing this out of the other. And it's, all these types of things. It's like, the things that only you understand if you're if you're actually doing this all the time. And again, we still have a lot of fun. It's still not something we should really complain about, but it's just one of those things that it'd be fun to collab on those kinds of videos of like, hey, let's all talk about what our travel day was like today. It's always like someone's got a story, someone's got, a giant headache that they just endured to get to that cool highlight reel that you see and all that. And so I think trying to find a non-awkward way to like film hanging out with all these awesome people and all the fun things that we get to do, and the great conversations we have and stuff, trying to find a non-awkward way to do that, I think is something I've been trying to figure out as well, because I think it'd be a lot of fun to bring you guys behind the scenes for stuff and give a more, not honest, because I mean we're always honest, but just a more real view of exactly what we do, not just the cool highlight parts. So anyway, long-winded answer, I apologize, but yeah, I'm still looking for more ways to collab, because I know that's something I hear a lot. And Ace says, do you ever get offered long-term reviews? I've seen other channels get a vehicle for 2 to 3 months to keep for a review vehicle. Yeah, I've never been offered one of those, and from what I've seen and heard, it sounds like you kind of have to pitch yourself for something like that. You have to make a case for keeping it that long and the content you're going to do with it. So it's a little bit harder to get something for that length of a period typically. And a lot of the other people that do long-term reviews just buy the vehicle or something like that, do it that way. But as far as like media loans for multiple months, that's possible. It's just, again, you got to make your case there. It's not just the usual, like, all right, we're giving you all the new stuff here. You get it for a week. And, it's a little bit extra work there. And that's something I considered, for a couple of different times, whenever I was considering getting rid of the Bullet, is like, well, maybe I can just hop from one long-term vehicle to the other. The problem with long-term stuff, if I had it, was I'd be too busy driving the regular press cars, and it'd be the same problem as the Bullet, where I never had any time to drive it. So that's why I can't really pitch myself for a long-term review to a car company, because they'll be like, what are you going to do with it? I'll be like, well, I'll probably drive it once a week for like 10 miles, and that'd be about all the time I would have time for with a long-term loaner. So that's part of why I don't do them. I'm just too busy with the weekly stuff. If I'm coming up into the winter, or coming up into a time where I don't have any press vehicles scheduled for a while, maybe that could be something I'd be like, hey, I got a gap for 3 months. How about we try me living with something instead, or something like that. I'm considering doing something like that, just so I have coverage and have a car as a backup outside of the Mach-E, since I don't have my car of my own now. So that's something I'm considering. So maybe you will see it in that context. But as long as I keep the weekly press loans rolling in, I would have no time for a long-term video, unfortunately. But I'd love to do that, because I think you get probably even more good experience and more valuable input you can give on the car, living with it, for a longer period like that. Let me see. Sorry, I missed a couple of super chats here. Jordan, thank you for a super chat. He says, Nikola Tesla wanted wireless electricity for everyone. Wrong to think the ICE engine is as primitive as fire to early humans. Yeah, I mean, I think, the wireless electricity thing is certainly something that can happen. It's just a matter of, again, the money coming together, the interest being there, people being up for it, and embracing, the next generation of electric stuff. To see if we can really, make that next leap there. And Luke, thank you for another super chat. He says, by the way, your wife looks very adorable and someone that gets along with you. Congrats. I appreciate that. Yeah, very fortunate to have her in my life, and she'll probably make an appearance here in one of the next live streams coming up. But yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, she's great. She holds down the fort here when I'm on these trips, and does a great job, with our daughter and all that. And yeah, very appreciative. Let me see. Getting back to the member questions here. And we're almost on 2 hours, man. This time has flown by, but I will try my best to get through these as much as I can here. We're definitely very far behind. Lots of tangents tonight. Hopefully, you guys have still been enjoying, regardless. So let me see. Good Stick says, "What are things you're hoping for future EV car designs?" I hope we just get more chances taken. More daring stuff, more creative stuff. And I think that EVs really open up that opportunity, with not being constrained in the front end to have enough space for a gas engine. And we see this with, the new Charger having that Aero bridge thing in the front. And, just make it interesting, make it exciting, make it out of the ordinary, something different. I think, and you can do that with EVs. And I think that we're seeing that already, but I hope we continue to see more and more of that as time goes on. Jazz says, Matt, are you keeping a log of all your cars you reviewed on YouTube from day one? YouTube kind of does that for me with just the playlist. I have a playlist of all the car reviews I've ever done. And so you can scroll through that list in the playlist there and see every single one is listed there. So that's kind of the way that I've been, keeping track of it. And I've kept track of how many I've done and all that. It's just looking at the playlist and saying, wow, it's over 500, it's over 600. That's kind of the way I do that. And Brian's Video Complex says a convertible car with 4 seats. Try the Nissan Murano Cross Cabriolet. Those are very quirky. Yeah, and probably miserable to drive. So that's it's a hard pass for me. The V6 CVT. No thanks. That doesn't sound good, especially one from that generation. And Trent Carga says, not to toot my own horn too much, but I have been getting compliments on the Magnum and have a few people that have offered to buy it for me, but I can't bring myself to do it. Well, if someone offers you big money, if you can part with it, then, it could totally make sense. But I think at some point, like I said, maybe I'm full of crap, but I feel like at some point it'll be worth big money. Just because, again, they're not very common, especially a lot of them have rusted out and get crushed and all that. So, ones that have been kept around, I think could have some value. And Nub says, selling Subarus, I get a lot of customers who want hybrids and won't touch an EV. That's definitely the thing right now, is everyone loves hybrids. And it's also strange that Subaru's behind on that. They had a hybrid, plug-in hybrid for the last generation Crosstrek. It didn't sell great back then, but now I think it would be a huge hit, and it's a real shame they gave up on that too soon. And I kind of am happy that Chrysler stuck with the early plug-in hybrid Pacifica all these years, even though it wasn't the popular thing back then. I think now you're going to see a new wave of popularity for that vehicle, because especially now it's proven they've gotten a lot of the bugs worked out of it, and it's a plug-in hybrid minivan when no one else is doing that. But as far as Subaru with hybrids, I think that Forester hybrid can't get here soon enough, and they're talking about putting that hybrid in the rest of the lineup. That needs to happen yesterday. And so hopefully, again, for your sake, if you're selling Subarus too, because I'm sure you're losing a lot of customers to people who go and buy hybrids elsewhere as well. But it's really, I don't know why Subaru does what they do, honestly. A lot of times. And B Mitchell says, being a Ford guy, the way Ford makes me cringe. As far as, I'm not sure what you're referring to with the way forward, if you mean the EVs or the any of the other decisions they're making there. But I know there's definitely a lot of people that are not in love with the way Ford's doing things, but we will see. Again, everyone making their bets. Everyone making their bets. We'll see whose bet is right as far as the best way forward. Trent Cargo says, I've had a beard for months now. It's something you get used to. Nice. Well, I'm glad you've gotten used to it as well. Yeah, hopefully, I get used to the scratchiness and stuff. I just gotta figure out, because I don't want mine to be super long. I'm not going for a mountain man look over here. I'm just gonna, keep some facial hair here, but not gonna let it get crazy. So, gonna see what I need to do to, get it to where I'm happy with it. But Luke says the Accord EXL is the sweet spot. Small wheels, more sidewall, so smoother ride and good tech. Yep, I think that'd be great. And sidewall. I'm definitely team sidewall. Less flat tires, more comfort, and still plenty fine handling in most cases. Truck Cargo says the only problem is that it's getting quite hot out here in Arizona. I've been floating around 100 for like a week now, and I work outdoors for the most part. Man. Yeah, this week I got a sample of that. Palm Springs, we're up to 98 degrees, and I'm outside filming a car review, and it's hot. So Yeah, I can feel you on that, and kudos to you for working out in the heat like that. That's sure it's not easy. Um, And let me see. I think we got a couple more super chats here. Thank you, Jordan, for another super chat. He says Moran score at the end of press car reviews. I'm not into scores. I know this is a popular thing. Doug started and a few other people followed along. But scores are not helpful in my opinion. A score only tells you what I think of the vehicle, and that's great if you're worried about my opinion on it, but my videos are not focused on me. They are focused on you guys and what information I can put out there to help you figure out what car you would like to buy. This is why I put the information out there as I think this is a little too stiff. I think this is a little too soft. And I give some, of those subjective things, but otherwise I try and keep it factual and spec oriented and stuff. And I just put the information out there and I let you make the judgment. I say, this has some body roll. And, I might say it feels good or it feels bad, but like, I'm just telling you it has body roll. If body roll is a deal breaker for you, then, don't buy that car. If you don't mind body roll, then maybe you'll be okay with that. I mean, like we were talking about Accord and Camry, Accord is a little softer. If that's something you like, go for it. I maybe want something sportier, but that doesn't mean Accord is bad. But in my rankings, I'd say that Accord is, lower on the sportiness scale than Camry, or I could say driving dynamics, the Accord is worse than Camry because I want it to be sporty. But like that doesn't help you, because if I give the Accord a bad rating because it's not what I want it to be, that's just egocentric in my opinion. Again, it's about putting the information out there, telling you guys what it's like, giving you the best possible picture that I can portray through video of what this car is like. You make your own decision. I can tell you what I think about it, and I do, but my opinion is not supposed to be your opinion. It's open to interpretation. It's open to what your own independent thoughts are. And so a score is a waste of time. I mean, again, I know a few of you would probably like to hear, what I rank a car at from a personality or an entertainment standpoint. But again, doing this channel, trying to help people find cars they'll love, me saying my score just is a little too self-serving for my own comfort. And I see Doug says Jason Camisa has a spreadsheet. Spreadsheet is fine too if it's objective stuff, or if it's something that's just factual. But even still, it's again, everyone likes something different. So I can't say a car is objectively better or worse in a subjective category. Like subjectivity and objectivity should not mingle. So like, I always keep that distinction, and to claim something that is subjective is objectively good or bad is just misleading to me. I don't know. I can't get behind a generic blanket score that I think everyone should agree with. Like I can't, don't have any appreciation for that, unfortunately. So not for me. And Vic, thank you for a super chat as well. Says, which one would be worse, Nissan Murano Cross Cab or Aztec? I'd say Murano probably, because I think Aztec had a real transmission. So I probably say Aztec is better between those two. Good question, Vic. Thank you for that. And Jordan, thank you for another super chat. He says, sit back and wait syndrome beneficial to major car companies? I think so for a lot of them. I think that, Toyota has profited from that a little bit, but also Toyota's, been a leader with hybrids and plug-in hybrids and stuff like that as well. So I think in some ways it can help. In some ways, I think it's just smart to pick your battles, to, pick the things where you want to be a leader and pick the things where you're okay being a follower. And that was actually one of the things Mazda this week was telling us, as far as their company ethos. Like they're like, we're a fast follower. That's how they categorize themselves. They can't afford to be a leader because they're not the biggest company. They don't have the ability to invent all these crazy new things or come up with all this crazy stuff. They have to wait and see, but then they're going to be really quick with following after. Excuse me. And like they said this week, like they were really proud of the fact they beat Toyota to the punch with a plug-in hybrid 3-row, because Toyota has no plug-in hybrid Grand Highlander or regular Highlander. Mazda has that. So I think seeing like, okay, wait a minute, people really like plug-in hybrids. All right, now let's try and, apply that safe thing that we know people like, so we're not going to get burned on this most likely. And let's hurry up and put it out there as fast as we can to either follow everyone really fast or, maybe even beat a lot of them to the punch. And so, I think that there is some value in, watching some stuff pass you by, but I think really Mazda has it right from a value standpoint. Conserve your money, but then once you see that this has been a proven success thing for others, then follow it fast and do your own version of that. But do that same thing as best you can. So I think that's my thoughts on that. And thank you again, Jordan, for the super chat. So we're 2:04 for the time here. I got to get going soon, but I'm going to try and get through a few more of the member questions here as quickly as I can. And hopefully we can get most of everyone's questions answered here. So let me see. So Raphael says, during COVID, I let my beard grow out. My beard was on my chest and my hair past my shoulders. Nice. Yeah, my hair didn't get quite that long, but it was, as you saw in those videos, it was definitely on the long side. But it's awesome. Stratus says, hey, Matt, what are your thoughts on headlight restoration kits? Should I try one of those DIY kits or just have it done at a shop? It's hard to do that stuff well, because a lot of them, the problem is that it comes back really fast. So it doesn't fully actually fix it. I'd say if you want to do it well, follow Chris Fix's recommendations, because he's done really good stuff on that. So I would look up his recommendations. I don't remember off the top of my head what his recommendations are, but having it done at a shop probably, in my opinion, isn't going to really be that beneficial. If you're going to spend that much money, you're better off probably just replacing the headlights. If it's not some super high-end vehicle, if the headlights aren't super expensive, it's just better to probably do that at that point versus taking it to a shop where you're going to probably pay a decent amount of money for that. And Steven says, past press car reviews. We're there. Are there any cars that deserve a second look, either because 1 week is not enough to review or it was hard to let go? I mean, there's a lot of cars where I just wanted to keep it longer selfishly, but as far as, stuff that maybe I needed more time with, I mean, I think there's just sometimes where I'm traveling and I don't have a full week to drive the vehicle, even though it's been sitting in my driveway for a week. And I just, I got 2 press cars right now, and both of those I've been gone this entire past week. So I got a few days here before they swap it for the next round of press cars. So there's some of those where I just wish I had more time, but that's my own fault more so, not the car's fault or the scheduling fault of the press fleet or anything. It's just me being too busy. But yeah, I don't remember a car that was like leaving and I was like, man, I needed more time with it. I think a week is enough, because I started doing these reviews, driving stuff for 2 hours and doing, in my opinion, a pretty comprehensive review on what it's like, and I can feel out a car pretty quickly. So you get a pretty good impression in the first half an hour, I'd say. Honestly, I can, first 15 minutes, if I'm on a decent road, I can have a pretty good idea of everything I'm going to say in a review. It's just, again, testing the fuel economy, testing, how things hold up over the week, whether it's electronics or if things annoy me more or less, or, rattles pop up, things like that. But outside of that, no, there was nothing I can think of where I'm like, oh man, like I really needed more time to test that well. I think a week is usually plenty. And B. Mitchell said, also, one of my favorite car and driver quotes regarding Citroen SM, the most appropriately named car in history. Nice. That's funny. Good Stick says, I saw a Mitsubishi Mirage the other day. I don't know why anyone would buy this car. There is someone who's commenting every once in a while who has a Mirage. They could probably chime in on why they like it. I also am not a fan of the Mirage. I haven't driven one, in all fairness, but knowing what I know about the Mirage, I'm okay with that. I don't need to drive one personally. And these days especially, it's hard to see the case for it, but they sell. There's people that like them for various reasons. I'm going to skip the replies here from others. Ace says, got to run, excited for your CX-70 review, as it was the biggest disappointment for me in years from Mazda. Really was looking for an RDX GV70 competitor for much cheaper instead of CX-90 rebadge. Yeah, I got a lot of really good context on why they did that, and I'm going to put that pretty early in the video on the CX-90 review. So definitely watch the video. I guess, I can't really say much because it's all under embargo. I can just say that, after talking with the guy who was really behind the CX-70, and I was peppering this poor guy with a zillion questions. I really like one after another. He was so cool about, really having great answers and being blunt and honest and, giving me a straight up response on stuff. I think that's, yeah, I had a lot of my questions answered on CX70, and I'm very happy I went on that program because I was debating even skipping that one. 'Cause I'm like, yeah, it's just going to be CX90, but there's some differences. There's some stuff that I learned that I'm really happy I learned, and I think it'll hopefully provide you guys with a lot of answers to questions as well. I'm sure you might have already signed off, but maybe if you're rewatching this Ace or whatever, but regardless, this is for everyone else. The CX70 video will have more to it than you might be expecting, as far as information on thinking it's just a CX90 rebadge, because there's some cool stuff with that. But Good Stick says, one of my friends has a 2007 Mitsubishi Endeavor, has 170,000 miles and going strong. Nice. Good to hear that it's held up well for him. And Raphael says, it's great that you say not to get one if you can't charge at home, but the car companies and government don't tell us this. So I mean, there's no mandates, for a long time. There's no federal mandate, as far as states goes. Some states, are having that goal. We will see. But the option is always out there for use too. So that's the bottom line. A lot of people don't buy brand new cars, and it's, if that's something that doesn't work, there's no mandate, and there's not going to be a mandate until apartment charging is figured out, and fast charging is way better. This is why this stuff is way far in the future. So, and car companies as well, they're just following the regulations, but they're also following consumer demand. Again, what real consumers are saying that they want. Again, if half of them are considering an EV, then that means that those halves are, able to do that and are confident that they can. But no one's forcing us into EVs. Nothing is forcing us right now. It's, yes, that is the way that everything is trying to be guided. The rest of the world has regulations that are guiding us in that direction as well. But the option is still out there for the consumer. There is no one stopping you from buying a gas-powered car today, tomorrow, 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20 years from now. You will still be able to buy a gas car. It might not be brand new, might not have 1,000 horsepower, but you will still be able to buy a gas-powered car for a long, long time, probably forever, in my opinion. Or, not forever, but, for a long, long time. So, that's the only thing. The biggest pain point is going to be not having new stuff. And even that's going to be more than a decade away. And it'll be a whole different world by that point, I think, in a lot of ways. So, the story's not over on this stuff. Again, it's very hard to predict what the future is going to be like. But I think that it's not something we need to worry about right now. Because again, there's nothing being forced on us in the year 2024 here. And Austin says, hey, Matt, my 500 Abarth was overfilled by 3.5 quarts. Dealer said they will pay for the new oil change. Now I discovered my rotors are warped after getting new tires. Didn't fix my steering wobble. Man, so it sounds like that Abarth was a little rough around the edges, Austin. I'm sorry to hear that. And hopefully, yeah, I mean, these are things that dealers should, warped rotors is like, I can pick up warped rotors driving in a parking lot. Like, I don't know why they ever sold you that car with all this stuff. Man, that's crazy. Or why any service person didn't say, hey, your rotors are warped. Like, that's crazy. Hopefully things get better for you with that, because hopefully you can actually enjoy that car at some point, because they're really fun little cars. And let me see. So we already covered all the helicopter stuff. And let me see. Strata says, hey, Matt, what kind of scotch / whiskey have you been into lately? I don't drink it a ton. I just have usually my usual standbys. So, like in the past, a few toasts I've done, that's been Canadian Club. I've got a big bottle of Maker's Mark down there. It's, I think, one of the special Maker's Marks, but I don't even remember which one it is, to be honest, because I haven't even started drinking it yet. Scotch, Taliskers, always one of the ones whenever I really want to have a statement in my glass. Talisker was Roger Moore's favorite scotch, so that's why a family member got that for me for I think my birthday once. But yeah, there's nothing. I don't really experiment with it a whole lot. I don't really go to taste any new stuff or sample it because I don't drink it that much. It takes me a decent while to get through a bottle. So haven't tried anything new. I always like Four Roses. That's always been good. Bullet is one of my favorite bourbons, not just because of the name, but because it actually is really good in my opinion. But yeah, I don't think there's anything else. I had a mezcal old fashioned for the first time a little while ago, and that was actually way better than. I'd never even thought to order that before, and I was like, wow, this is really good. I need to drink that more, and I haven't had one since, but I need to like start getting those more often because it was really good. So I think that would be kind of a fun thing to start having a little more of. But yeah, nothing. I'm not a good person to recommend whiskeys, I don't think. And Raphael says the great thing about helicopters, okay, is if you hit the ground, you'll never know it. Man, that's true, I guess. But SMD is asking, is that a new Apple Watch? Nope, this is my Series 4 that I think I got in 2018. It's definitely rough around the edges. Yeah, thankfully though, it's still doing really well. Battery life is still good for me, and it's been pretty good. So still just running my old one here. Let me see. SLMD says flying statistically is so safe, but I sweat bullets during my flights. Totally can understand that. All right. So let me see. Brian says Top Gear Bolivia Special is one of my favorites. Yeah, that was a good one. Trent Carger says I've spent many a day driving big rigs, but have yet to travel by train. I might have to do that. It's really cool. If you're not in a hurry, it's a slow way to travel, but it's really cool, especially if you get like a sleeper car and you have a diner car and you do it like really not just a quick little commute, but you're doing like a long trip. There's some really fancy ones that go up through like the mountains and all these, sightseeing kind of excursions. Again, they're not cheap either. They're expensive. There's no value play here. There's no speed play. It's basically disadvantaged in every possible way. But it's just cool and different, and especially if you're nostalgic for old-timey stuff, then that can be a fun edge there as well for that. But yeah, I think it's worth trying at least once, I think. And there's actually a really cool thing. I think it goes from like somewhere in like maybe Baltimore. You can catch it at Amtrak, and they have a car one. So you can actually load your car up on it. And I think it goes all the way down to Florida, and then you hop off, your car hops off, and then you drive your car around, but you didn't do the, long road trip. I mean, I love road trips. So, but if you want to do it differently, you can take the train down and then get your car when you get down to Florida, and then you have it there and you do your normal thing. And then you put your car back on the train and go back home. And I've never done that, but I'd love to try that someday too. It's really a cool thing that I didn't know existed. So that's why I wanted to share. But Hyper Shadow says, I think your videos are great. I don't know what you think of yourself or how you actually rank among these channels. But I've always seen you as one of the big car review channels, top tier YouTuber. I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, I think I've been one of the earliest ones to do it. And I think there's that component that I, kind of always, I kind of have as like a thing I'm proud of, but, I mean, the channel is, large, I guess, when you look at the subscriber counts and stuff like that. But I these days view myself as, just one of the small guys now, just trying to get my few thousand views, and that's it. I've watched a lot of channels blow right past me, and congratulated everyone else on their 1 million milestones and all that kind of stuff. Maybe someday it'll happen for me, but I think I used to, view myself as one of the top car review channels, and then I've clearly dropped off as everyone else, leapfrogged me, tenfold. So, but yeah, it's, it's always an ever-changing place with YouTube. Mike says, does ride quality suffer in CX-50 over CX-5 with the different rear suspension? It's been a couple, or was it last year I had CX-50, or maybe the year before? It's been a while since I've been in CX-50, so not a great back-to-back comparison. I'll probably have better thoughts on CX-50 this year when I do a follow-up video on it, since I was just in CX-5. But I don't remember ride quality being a big difference between the two. The thing about Mazda is they still focus on that. And a lot of people were worried about Mazda 3 when it went to the torsion beam in the rear, but it's still fine. It's still a really fine riding vehicle. No big complaints, nothing that stands out to me. So yeah, I don't think it's it's going to be, something you should worry about too much, but definitely test drive them both if you can. And let me see. Raphael says, for any of you that are too young, I was in our Fort Myers office and living my Miami Vice live. So I guess I must have missed. That was probably from an earlier conversation. I apologize. And V Mitchell's mind blown about the not seeing the Italian job. And let me see. Austin says everyday driver guys bought a Losa Mira. They aren't so everyday anymore. Interesting. It's cool they got an Amira. I'd love to review one someday. And let me see. I think we're getting caught up on member questions here almost. So Austin says, I hope we start getting EVs that don't look like EVs. And I think we're getting a lot of those. I think, BMW's doing a good job of, just taking their gas thing and putting the electric stuff in it. And I think we're going to see more of that for sure. And let me see. Fook says, got to go. A tornado just touched down near Oklahoma City. Never wished to be in the basement with two this much before. Man, I hope everything's okay. Stay safe. Hope you come out of it okay. Hope all your stuff comes out okay. And I'm sure you're probably signed off now at this point. But best wishes, Fook. Hope it's all good. It's got to be very scary for sure. And Austin says I should move back to a scoring system again. I did used to list pros and cons. Never really did a scoring thing though. The pros and cons was fine. I never really got a lot of feedback on that, honestly. So that's why I didn't keep it around, because it was just another thing that took more time. But it'd be something I'd be open to adding that again for sure if that was something people wanted to see more of. Austin says, now we know why Matt hates Doug. No, that was just one of that I don't hold against Doug. That's just his own choice. There's other reasons why that are much more substantive than that, as far as why I have some differences with Doug. But let me see. Sixlick said Chris fixed wet sanded and sprayed his headlights with 2K clear coat. Then he wet sanded again, compounded, and finally polished. If you have an orbital polisher, then you'd be able to knock this out in a few hours. Awesome. Thank you for that info. I really appreciate that. And that's great that you know the whole process. That's awesome. Hopefully that's helpful. And sorry I missed a couple of super chats here. It's Jordan, looked like you had one. You retracted the message there. So feel free to just send another message, non-super chat, if you need to ask that again. But I see the other one. You said hydrogen fuel cell, a dead end solution. I think it could make sense for commercial stuff, for big rigs, things like that potentially. But beyond that, I think it's a dead end for passenger cars, probably forever, to be totally honest, in my opinion. Adrian, thank you so much for a super chat as well. And your first super chat here says, Ola Matt, looking at a 2021 WRX STI or an Integra Type S, SoCal weather, which do you think is more fun to drive, shift drive around town and the mountains? I'd say Integra. Integra is the better one for sure. Integra has a better manual. It's newer technology. It's more fun because, especially in the mountains, the front diff's going to really work, and you're going to feel that working climbing uphill. And it's dynamically better. It's flatter. It's going to be more reliable than WRX STI for sure. Just in all the ways, I think, I would pretty clearly take an Integra Type S over the STI personally. And especially if you live in SoCal, you don't have to worry about having all-wheel drive for snow or anything like that. In that case, I don't see any justification for an STI, to be totally honest. I think a Type S could do everything a WRX STI can do and more, and be totally fun. I mean, you have the balance of the all-wheel drive with the STI, but Integra Type S is so dynamic, I don't think you're going to be wanting for anything more. So I would say, for sure, Integra Type S would be the way I would go. So hopefully that helps you. Feel free to also, if you have any other context or any other follow-up questions, be more than happy to help you out. If you want to send a message on any of the social, links there in the description, you can always reach out. And that goes for anybody. If you have any questions that didn't get answered tonight, definitely be more than happy to answer those here, this week. And we're almost caught up here on member questions here, and then I'll sign off. So Zachary says, thanks again. I appreciate it. Thanks for stopping by, Zachary. I think Six Licks is asking about getting a WRX for Adrian instead, the regular one. I mean, yeah, those with it sounds like the new Gen WRX with a tune can be really solid. So even if you have the appeal of all-wheel drive or Subaru or something like that, yeah, that Six Licks. That's a good call. That's the way I would go. Is even if you want an STI these days, I would just say tune a regular new WRX. You get the new platform, all the new stuff, and better reliability, better fuel economy probably. And with a tune, it sounds like you can keep up with an STI no problem. You don't have the adjustable rear diff and a couple other things, but I think that's probably the better way to go. I agree. And Hyper Shadow says, I like the pros and cons thing. However, I'd rather see you be more satisfied with your channel and never go away. So keep doing it your way for sure. Yeah, well, I mean, but I think I'd be happier if again the views were better and I was able to kind of relax a little bit, because I think that's part of why whenever I moved from one car review a week to two a couple years ago, I think that was really what kind of started to overload me and get me more burned out as far as just the editing workload. So that's really the thing. If I could get the channel to a good enough point where I could just go back to doing one car review a week and be able to live off of that and have that one car review get enough views, then I'd be more than happy to again go into doing the music intros in the beginning, go into doing the pros and cons. If I could take my time with an edit and not be rushed through every single video that I edit pretty much, then I could have more fun with that stuff and add more of those things in, do the mechanical deep dive, or just if I could take my time with all that stuff. But just right now the YouTube algorithm doesn't reward that. It's just churning out content, getting it out there as much and as fast as you can. So that's really why I've tried to cut corners as much as I can. And I know that means, I've cut a lot of stuff that people probably enjoyed from the videos. It's just, again, having the time to spend. I used to spend 3 hours on that 30-second music intro, finding the right song, playing with the visual effects and color correcting everything. And, mostly just finding the right song and then cutting it to the beat and all that. It took more time than people realize. So, I just had to streamline everything in the past couple of years. If I can get to a point where I don't have to be that brutally efficient with the edits down the road, then I would love to, add in a bunch of that stuff. And Austin says, thanks, Matt. Hope the $500 bar is sorted soon. Yeah, best of luck to you. Hope that goes well. And Six Lick says, thank you, Matt. Hope you have another great week. I hope you guys have a great week as well, too. He says, also, Matt, have you considered doing a scoring system with the ranks of each vehicle in an Excel sheet? That's just more work to try and sit down and put all that stuff into a spreadsheet like that. It'd be fun. I'd love, even I see Jason Camisa at the end of every year, he has his little roundup of how much he drove all of his personal cars, how many miles were done in press vehicles, how many miles were done, in his own vehicles, and how many miles he's flown. And he does all these fun little things. I wish I had time to sit there and crunch my numbers. Jason Camisa is very fortunate that he is one of the few people that does car videos on YouTube that is able to have a healthy work-life balance and has a lot of time to research, a lot of time to do these fun little things. But I see 6 is saying, the math score. Yeah, I feel like there's no scoring in my future unless I can find a way to do it that is helpful, in my opinion, to helping people find cars they'll love. Anyway, Hyper Shadow says, thanks for your time tonight, Matt. Now go relax. I appreciate that. And 6 says, I hope to see you, Engineering Explained and Redline Reviews, to the yearly award show again. We are hoping to get the AVAs back again this fall. That is the goal. We will see if it happens, but fingers crossed. It seems like it's looking likely like it is actually going to happen. So hopefully we'll see us all together, and that'll be a prime place, to do a lot of collabs. That is going to be one of my focuses if we do that, as we're all together. We all have some time, with these cars. Let's do a bunch of collabs, because a lot of the cars will probably be stuff I've already filmed or done reviews on. That gives me some free time to just be like, hey, let's just have fun on camera. And so I'm hoping to maybe do some more of that and the AVAs this year. So anyway, but yeah, thank you all so much for tuning in here in the live stream. I really appreciate the support. Went for almost 2.5 hours this time. I think we're setting a record here every week, but thank you all so much once again, and I hope you all have a great week as well. Stay tuned for a CX-70 review on Tuesday and Silverado EV on Thursday. There's some fun, cool little things in the Silverado video that out of the ordinary. I got some cool new shots. got some fun stuff I was able to do that I don't usually get to do. And it's 754 horsepower in a Silverado. So can't talk about driving impressions, but that is the spec. Make of it as you wish. But anyway, thank you all very much once again for watching. Have a great week, everyone, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.